spice up your life. 102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Hey, Manda.
Hey, Manda.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay you for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you're sentenced, you're sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside. Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
Oh, right.
Okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No. It's about shipping up. You're my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man.
One of Talabu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they'd been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the ship or a ship goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
good morning and welcome to, what is it? It's Wednesday in the middle of the week. I know there's some rain coming down and so streets are slippery. Let's see what's building in terms of traffic. As you're coming in on the Thika Superhighway, not much popping just yet. We're likely to see that traffic will build up as we get properly into Wednesday. Coming out of Westlands, we're not seeing anything here at all, really. Probably going to be a busier day than yesterday on the streets, but we're going to keep an eye on things and see how they all unfold as we get into the day properly. All right, we need you to talk to us and let us know what's happening where you are. Let's keep things moving this morning and we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 9 minutes after 6 o'clock on this 17th day of July. Getting into it properly. How are you today? It's very cold. It's raining. There's a chill everywhere. But hey, here we are. I'm very happy to be alive. I guess I'm getting through it. CT, good morning.
Ndu.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm cold.
Yeah, it is a cold morning.
Have you ever heard me admit?
No, rarely, actually. But apart from it's chilly. It's drizzling this morning.
Yeah.
But there's a particular cold. I mean, I know I can feel it in my fingers.
I feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes.
Is it soul?
I decided it would be toes.
Toes. All right.
At least for this morning.
Okay.
Uko salama lakini?
Mi niko sawa. Niko well kabisa.
Okay. Well, see, yesterday was an interesting day, and until late in the evening, things were still, uppity. Another day of Mandamano, and we're just looking into what it actually means. Occupy. Things. Let's see how the week goes and promises that have been made in terms of what exactly is going to happen. Eric Latif is away today, and don't worry, even as he is. Show continues, looking into certain things that we'll be talking today. So, going in different directions today and looking at a number of issues. So let me tell you what we'll be talking about today, even as we get into it. All right. Our 7 o'clock conversation this morning is looking into, so there was land rates issue that was given out by the ministry before things fell apart, and in terms of what your leasing will be and how you will then pay those rents and etc., and folks started to say, exactly what is going to happen? So we're talking about restoring investor confidence after a financial crisis. What happens when things are not looking so good, and how you're going to bring folks back into the fray. At 8 o'clock, we'll be talking with Dr. Musa Musiani, and we'll be talking about innovations in healthcare delivery, and that happens with Jubilee Health Insurance at 8 a.m. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll be looking at the education sector and how technology is being used to fix a broken study abroad industry. Many questions already in terms of what that all means, and even as we get into it, we'll be looking to have those conversations this morning. Okay, so our live streams are up all over on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, and we are live on Radio Garden as well, wherever you're tuned in around the country. Thank you for being here this morning. We're going to come and take a look at what the weather has in store today, if it's going to continue raining through the day around the country and in the region, and then we'll come back and say hello to you wherever you're clicking in from this morning. Talk to us, say hi, and we'll say hi back. We'll be back in a bit.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
14 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi, and it's also drizzling in many parts, highs of 22 and lows of 13. It's 15 and cloudy in Nakuru with highs of 22, we'll see lows of 14, and 13 will be the low in a mostly cloudy Nyeri, going to highs of 19. We're looking into a cloudy Eldoret at 14 with highs of 21 and lows of 13. While into Mombasa, it's partly cloudy at 22 with highs of 29 and lows of 22. Malindi, cloudy at 25 with highs of 29. And we're looking into a mostly cloudy Kisumu at 21, going to highs of 28. Kakamega at 19 is cloudy with highs of 26 and lows of 17. While into a rainy Kampala this morning at 19, we'll see highs of 27 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is clear at 23 with highs of 30. And we're looking into a clear Johannesburg at 7 with highs of 22. Mogadishu is cloudy this morning at 24 with highs of 29, while at 12 it's cloudy in Addis Ababa, going to highs of 19. Looking into a mostly cloudy Lagos. At 25, we'll see highs of 31 and lows of 25, while Kinshasa is clear at 22. It'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 20. It's 32 degrees in Beijing this Wednesday afternoon, highs of 35. And Paris is cloudy at 14 with highs of 26, while London, going to highs of 24, is cloudy at 15. Around things off in New York, we're at 28. Tuesday night is cloudy, coming into Wednesday, highs of 34 and lows of 25.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
How are you, my friends, and everybody in the room today? Okay, so Chris Adede says, good morning at Spice FM. Good to have you here, tuning in from TVT. Where's TVT? I'm not sure, but you know.
Taita Taveta.
Oh, it's possible. Okay. Utawala is locked, says Chris Adede. And Taita Taveta TVT. Okay. You learn something new every day. You're on, CT. You're on. Raphael Kige says, good morning, big trio. Things don't come easy. I can see, I'm just turning my head to the side so I can see all the stuff on the screen. Good morning, team. The person who removes a mountain begins by carrying away a small stone. This is true. Like the folks who tried to escape from Alcatraz. Remember that story? What is the story called?
Escape from Alcatraz.
Is that not the name of the movie?
There's a movie like that, but there have been many other movies that have revolved around Alcatraz.
Yeah.
But the one of the first ones to come out was I Escaped from Alcatraz.
Exactly. And they started chipping away at the wall, and they would bring out a little bit of the stone in their pocket.
Over a very long period of time. They'll put it in their pockets.
And then empty it in the yard.
Yes. With a spoon.
Exactly. Until now there was a gaping hole, and then they were able to actually get out of the thing.
The very thing that nobody had assumed would happen. It is also said that during that period when they interviewed, one of the guards said that, consider the number of inmates vis-a-vis the number of guards.
Yeah.
The guards have to worry about all these inmates. The inmate has time on his hands. They can plot and plan. They have time day and night. There's nothing interfering with their time. So it is possible, even when you think you have a break-proof prison, say there's no such thing.
There isn't. With a spoon, my man, with a spoon. And so actually you're right. A mountain starts being you remove a mountain by carrying away a small stone. Thanks for that, Peter. Good morning, goals. Kev says good morning. Tune into Spice FM. Alex is here. No bonging. Hey, we're still not bonging. Okay. Good morning, my dear country, Kenya, says Brian. I quote this morning, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. What? It's true now. Okay. Joe Mungai has woken up this morning from Bonnie Lake in Washington and says, bring Koigi Wawamwere here. Tower. Brian Oginga says, good morning. DCI dressed a giraffe with an antelope skin and failed to conceal its 18-foot height. Hey, you guys are really bringing it in this morning, are you not? Evans and Tabo says, good morning, everybody. Motomoto, yes, here we are. Good morning, Spice, tuning from Nyahururu. Jimmy Weka says here this morning. Mburu Kamau says, good morning, good people. James Mukabana is here. Continue doing the Lord's work. We shall try. Dave Lubali says, good morning, good team. Good morning. Kenya in Funyula is where you're locked in from this morning, says Jerry Momba. Dr. Venvik is tuning from Mombasa. Leo, good morning to you. How are you doing? Gallant sons and daughter, but we'll use the blood and tears to grow more warriors for its freedom. The motherland mourns its gallant sons and daughters, but it will use blood and tears to grow more warriors for its freedom. Jaber Asami says, it's my birthday today. Well, happy birthday to you, and may God bless you and keep you. Abraham Kimeli says, good morning, team. CT Angukanayo says MIP. Do you know what to do?
I have absolutely no idea. I know what the word means. I even understand the implications. What am I supposed to Angukanayo?
Don't just do it.
Okay, then I have Anguka now.
Yeah, you see, easy. You don't even have to think about it too much. Just go ahead.
Yeah, just go with the flow. Okay.
Jimmy Murathi says, good morning. I think it's time for a 2-week hiatus from Gen Z. Why? Joseph Nigi says good morning, tuned in from Kisi. James Kiaria is in Washington DC and says good morning, in the room this morning. Oganya Malala says good morning, team. Very sad that the rogue officer could fire at a journalist. We need to reform the police force. This is true. That was sad to see journalists shot at yesterday. Shot. Hong Kong is where Robinson Kisero is tuned in this morning. Without an IG or even CS Interior, we will see hooded cops in the streets. Yeah. Lamek Otieno says, good morning. The thing called lived reality that CT always says, the mental anguish we are being put through will affect many people. And I think that has already started. Gadhua Gashora, we see you. Good morning. Carol Nyambura, tunakupenda sana pia. Ali Ado says, good morning. Robert Mbogo is tuned in. Sylvester Kengo is here. Harry Henry is here. Omar, Joseph, Alex, P. Lento, Nicholas, Bernard Okello, Harrison Bwire, we see you guys this morning, not leaving anybody out. Mukowengi, Sylvia Wanjohi, good morning, Spice. Is it possible to host Tattoo City Guy? Well, we'll look into that. David Kamotho says good morning as well. If I missed you, it's not because I wanted to. Everybody's here this morning and really clicking in. Thanks for being here as we get into these conversations. Karibuni Sana. Edna is also here and she's waving and sending kisses. All right, guys. Cabo Verde is where we are this morning.
A hot needle burns the thread.
A hot. This could stand for so many things.
Yes, it could.
A hot needle burns the thread.
See, the needle gives a thread relevance, as does the thread give the needle relevance.
Yeah.
But it is true, if the needle is hot, then the likelihood of the thread surviving within the needle
is low.
The network of the needle to do what it's supposed to do is extinguished. It will not be able to.
Yeah. If you come in hot without, just coming in to do what you're actually supposed to do, you might extinguish the purpose for which you were there in the first place. Okay. Much to think about this morning, is it not?
Plenty.
Okay, so let's look into the headlines this morning and see what's happening in the paper that we have. Paralysis as Gen Zs turn heat on counties. There's a powerful picture here of obviously a person with disability standing in the streets with his arms spread and he's holding his crutches. At least 23 governors felt the wrath of youth protesters when the residents took to the streets to demand accountability and good governance from the county bosses. Some leaders sought the protection of private guards and supporters wielding rungus, but these were disarmed and the message got home. Look at the counties affected by the Gen Z protests. What we're saying: Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Kakamega, Homa Bay, Kilifi, Migori, Baringo, Kericho, Narok, Siaya, Nyeri, Kisii, Nyamira, Turkana, Embu, Meru, Nairobi. We've named Nairobi twice. No, we haven't. Nairobi, Machakos, Trans Nzoia, Makueni, Kajiado, Taita Taveta. So it was countrywide yesterday and we saw quite a lot of stuff going on. We'll look into the details of that as we get into it. Also on the headlines, this is the cabinet we want, Kenyans tell Ruto. Whereas successive regimes have ignored Chapter 6 of the Constitution when it comes to statecraft, a majority of Kenyans want it to be the pillar of the next executive. Issues such as selfless service, face of Kenya, meritocracy, they say, should be considered in the appointments. Should cronyism, nepotism be factored, then the populace will reject the appointees. Yeah. So they've said, that's what they've said, that, you cannot do any kind of nonsense and come and get away with it anymore. The pledges that the president has made, President William Ruto has promised to form a cabinet that is broad-based and one that will unite the country. And number 2, he said those who will serve in the executive will be men and women dedicated to service and have the country's interest at heart. He's also promised to rein in on corrupt officials in government and trim the member of advisors on top of banning Harambes. This is something we will wait to what?
See.
We will wait to see. Now, looking at some other headlines, they're not on the front, but let's look into them anyway. A lawyer now says that the Quarry murder suspect was forced to confess. this is all taking a different turn, and we'll look into that in just a minute because that's a story we want to look into, Nespa.
You know what is of interest? As you're looking into this, the voices chiming into this conversation around the protest and the appointment of a new cabinet continues to increase. Yes. Everyone who has a say is having their say. Let me tell you what's in the headlines of the stuff. Okay? End of party after party. Is it? Ruto's brutal budget cuts. Hospitality, new vehicles, secret budgets raided in stringent spending reductions. Okay? One killed as demos inflict billions in losses. Mega projects to face 122 billion funding cuts.
One more.
My goodness, this one. You know, when I look at the headlines and I look at the stories that we have in the papers today, life still goes on. The protests just joined life. Everything that was happening before is happening. People wake up in the morning and they go about their business. That business is interrupted on Tuesdays and on Thursdays.
And then they go back as though nothing happened.
Yes, because at first people will be afraid, they'll be cautious. If this becomes the normal, people will adjust and they will be going to work. And even this narrative of people masquerading as protesters robbing people. If you look at the story in Kakamega, there are places where Gen Zs are clashing with these looters.
Yes, and saying that you will not allow you to do this.
You are not going to do this. Because you're doing it in our name, and it is us who are going to be blamed for this. So, that is also a contribution to what is actually happening. But more importantly, the wait and see game. What happened to that dialogue that was supposed to take place at Bomas?
Which one? The one that they said, we'll bring 50 people. Sorry, dead in the water.
Okay. Right. And the dialogue that is ongoing now, what is it?
Who is talking?
Everybody's talking.
Oh, no, there's like... okay. The dialogue where two sides are supposed to be speaking to each other in terms of government and then this other side. There's nothing going on.
There's a lot going on.
There's a demand for certain things to happen.
Actually, Ndu, your statement is actually true insofar as we're looking for dialogue out in the open.
Like two people sitting around a table.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you look at or you simply consider the reality that we're in the information age, let me repeat what I have been saying since last week. The dialogue never stopped.
Messages are being passed and received.
Never stopped. If you're talking about consensus seeking, if you're talking about discussion of issues, dialogue, Nespa, it is ongoing. The protests in and of themselves are a dialogue. It's a conversation.
Somebody's talking.
We are telling you. And, there's a response, all right. Tear gas is a response. When the police come in, it's a response. There is a dialogue going on. But is it the dialogue that we wanted?
We would imagine that it is.
Yes. And it begs the question, does the government understand the situation we now find ourselves in? Do those who give the security apparatus instructions, do they understand the moment we are in and what is happening? Or do they think that we are in that moment that reflects other moments that we've had, and that brutality and force will be the way to resolve these particular issues? Do they understand? Because the protests are not dimming, they are not lessening.
No, they're not.
They are increasing. And the numbers who are participating are not lessening, they are increasing. Again, those who are in positions of authority, do they fully grasp the times that we are in? And do they understand the ramifications and the outcomes of the actions that they have chosen to employ in these situations and these circumstances?
Do you think that just even as we're going to take a look at traffic in a minute and then come and look at the stories in greater detail, but is there an urgency that should be felt in moving this thing ahead so that, these things that Kenyans are asking to be done, can we just get along with it and do it so that you can start to restore things like normalcy in the country? Just go ahead and start to do it. Is it possible to actually have that conversation today and move things along?
It is very, very, very possible, because the government still has the mandate to actually govern. And because it has that mandate, they should exercise it, and they should demonstrate the response to the queries that were raised, to the asks that were put across. They must demonstrate and say, this is what was asked. Remember, with the finance bill, we saw a demonstration of the ask, clear. No question about it. But thereafter, there are other things that are supposed to happen, because, one, there's been a demand right now that there was a demand that the cabinet be reshuffled or changed. The cabinet was removed. We've seen. Now a new cabinet has to be appointed. Because the business of government, the business of the executive cannot continue. And it cannot continue in line with the constitution if there's no cabinet. There has to be a cabinet. Okay? It's a step-by-step process, but one must see it. And the government has an opportunity to practice the thing it doesn't do well, communicate. Do it, talk about it. Do it, talk about it. So that no one can say that they do not know. And when you talk about it, rest assured it will be questioned, and more questions will be, yes. So just bear in mind that this will happen. But it is a process that must go on. Because if you keep quiet, then you do not create a narrative, so other people will create a narrative for you.
Tell your story before somebody else gets a chance to do it.
Yes.
On that note, let's take a break and look at what is happening on the roads with traffic this morning, and we'll be back and looking at these stories in greater detail. This morning it is 29 minutes to 7 o'clock.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, coming into the city this morning on the Thika Superhighway, some traffic then getting through towards the Pangani underpass, and just at that tunnel is where we'll see the most of it. We're not seeing much more beyond that. Inbound all the way from Ruiru through towards Githurai and then Kasarani through towards Garden City. Not much happening here. Just till you get to that tunnel, we're likely to see that pick up a little bit. Kangunda Road is busy, coming and touching on Outer Ring, and then as you in and outbound traffic is going to be a bit of an issue through and through. Coming in from the Eastern Bypass and then getting onto North Airport Road, we're not seeing anything happening here, but that will pick up, we know this. On Jogo Road there's traffic as you approach Landis, but then right at Wakulima is where we'll see the most of it in that particular area right around Kamkunji. As you're coming out of Westlands, there is some movement and you're fine until you get towards what was the Westlands roundabout, towards the expressway exit entry, but apart from that I think we're still early for traffic issues, at least for now. Let's see what happens as we get into it later, and be sure to tell us what you find. If you find a good route, let us know. If you're stuck somewhere, shout out SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, at 26 minutes to 7 o'clock, this particular story of the suspect concerning the Quarry bodies that were found. Remember how we said, look, this is all a little bit too convenient, but let's look at a little bit more in terms of what has happened over the last couple of days, because the thing is just doing me somehow. Okay, now, Collins Jumaisi Khalisia, the man who has been linked to recovered bodies in a dump site in Mukuru Kwanjenga, was tortured, molested, and made to confess to the killings no sooner than Gafla bin what? Vu. Now, this is according to Defense Counsel John Mainan Degwa, who opposed the application of detaining his client. The Makadara Law Courts in Nairobi allowed detectives to remand the suspect for another 30 days until the investigations are complete. His lawyer prayed, "My client as of now requires urgent medical attention after he was subjected to inhumane mistreatment so that he would confess to issues which are alien to him." Now, earlier on, Kiambu Court, where he had been presented, declined to charge Halusa. Now, how have they given him another name? Okay, when investigators attempted to file a miscellaneous for detaining him for more days. Kiambu Senior Principal Magistrate Peter Wuko directed that the case be heard at the Makadara Law Courts, where the Directorate of Criminal Investigations Homicide Detectives in an affidavit said that they are investigating 42 cases of murder, including that of Rosa Tieno. So they said in order for this to investigate this and find all the information that they needed a little bit more in terms of time. That's why they needed him to be detained in that period. The victims were allegedly murdered on diverse dates between June 22 and 11th of July 2024. The affidavit sworn by Patrick Washira, the Embakasi Sub-County Criminal Investigations Officer, states that several cases of missing persons, mostly females, had been reported at the Quarry police station and other stations around. So they had reports of this and they were just waiting to see what would pop. The senior detective told the court that between July 11th and 15th, 2024, 8 bodies had been recovered from the Quarry dump site and moved to city mortuary for preservation and identification pending post-mortem to ascertain the cause of death. Now, meanwhile, a family at Musunji village in Shiru ward in Vihiga County is baffled by the news that the prime suspect behind the horrific murders of persons found dumped at the Quarry dump site in Mukuru Kwanjenga is their kinsman. They don't understand. Now, DCI Director Mohammed Amin claimed on Monday that the suspect, 31-year-old Collins Jumaisi Khalisia, confessed to the killings. The police said that the suspect was a resident of Vihiga. Now, the alleged killer's relatives in Vihiga County say they do not know such a person by the DCI's given name, but that they are likening him to one of their kin who left the area 3 decades ago. Is it possible that this man, who is 31, left 31 years of age?
He left Vihiga when he was 1.
He left Vihiga when he was 1?
Yes.
He walked out of Vihiga County when he was 1 and disappeared.
Let's take the view that his parents or whoever it is left with him when he was 1.
Took him. Because so now they're wondering, the last person that they know who actually is their kinsman from this very village, it was obviously much older. Now, the relatives say one person who fits the description that's left in early 1992 at a very tender age, so he was not 1 year old. When he left in the early 1990s, the family at Musunji said that his name was not Collins, but Catherine Ebuwait. That his name was not Collins Jumaisi Khalisia, but Catherine Shusa alias Kati. Does that sound like a man's name?
It's a name.
It's okay.
Well, how it sounds like is interesting, but it's a name.
This is just getting more confusing by the minute. Now, Shusia's father was Elijah Jumaisi, who died shortly after separating from his mother before they left Vihiga County for Migori County. Now, journalist Tuesday said Boniface Karanja met Boniface Karanja, who if indeed Khalisia is the same as Shusa, then they are cousins. So there are 2 cousins here. Karanja says Elijah Jumaisi was his uncle before he died.
So before he died, he was the uncle.
So after he died, I don't know if he ceased to be the uncle, but okay. And his young family then moved to Migori. We do not know this Collins Jumaisi Khalisia, The person who might be close to him is Katrina Shiusa, whose father was Elijah Jomaisi. You see how they're confusing us even more? The young Halisia left the village and moved to Migori with his mother and 4 siblings, according to the relatives. So essentially what they're saying is, this person who we're being told is our kin, the only person that we know who sounds like that person left this place 30 years ago at a very tender age. This other person that they're saying is we don't even know who it is. So,
well, if the idea was to occupy our minds have been occupied. And our minds continue to be occupied because it is clear and we can see, yes.
It's really confusing. I don't understand. But at the end of the day, so what are we dealing with here? That the lawyer is insistent on the facts, or according to him, fact that this gentleman was tortured and that he was coerced essentially into making a confession. And that's what's ringing here. And the second thing is that the person who they claim he is, his relatives or his kinsmen are saying, Atuju. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. Over the next 30 days, they're going to hold him and then see what else that they can find. And who knows whether he will recant his confession.
You know, the changes that we keep speaking of are going to be interesting. The path to achieving them is going to be interesting. I say this because if I look at page 20 of the Standard Business, the headline is Murkomen's last act burdens Kenyans with high pump prices. Statement by former CS has been interpreted as the government being mischievous. State tinkered with the pump prices but used subsidies to reduce prices. Okay? It simply says this. On his last day as a cabinet secretary for transport, Kipchumba Murkomen handed Kenyans a source of pain at the pump, one that will see the cost of essential items remain high or even go up. Murkomen was fired by President William Ruto alongside other cabinet secretaries on Thursday, had a day earlier gazetted the Road Maintenance Levy Fund Imposition Levy of Order 2024. The Gazette notice increased the road levy by 39% to 25 shillings from 18 shillings per litre of petrol and diesel. It became effective on July 15th. When the pump prices for July-August were affected, it had the immediate effect of reducing the margin by which the fuel prices were reduced, coming down to 1 shilling for a litre of super petrol and 1 shilling and 30 cents per litre of diesel. This order shall come into effect on the 15th of July. Is that not the day in which EPRA does its thing?
Yes, did the magic, yeah.
Right. Read the notice by Murkomen. The June 10th Gazette notice was despite an assurance by Murkomen on July 8th, 2024, that the government would not increase the levy following the public outcry and would instead look for alternative sources to fund and finance road maintenance.
Oh, it's actually 14th, every 14th of the month.
Okay.
So in other words, fuel is whether you like it or not, it's going to increase by 7 shillings. And then whether they do the tinkering and whatever, come the 14th of every month, fuel is just going to get higher and higher and higher.
The thing about fuel, the moment it goes up, everything goes up.
Yes, now.
It's really that simple. So, you know, when you say that this particular government has its work cut out for it, it certainly does.
It doesn't matter where you look. It doesn't matter where you throw anything. It just looks like everything is just going up in smoke.
What I'd like to see, though, is if you look at this article, people looking for people with integrity to sit in the next cabinet. This is an interesting story. See, this story of the cabinet, the changes, all these things, page 4, page 5, page 1, page 2, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9. All these stories revolve around what is happening in the country and the issues surrounding what the people think and what they are viewing as what they expect from their government. Okay? In one way or the other. In between, you'll find stories of, say, like in page 2, Githurai girl grateful for second chance of life after being shot. Now, this is not a person who was shot because they were doing anything. No. They were shot in the belly during the anti-tax skirmishes in Githurai on June 25th. Okay?
She was on her way from school.
Yes.
Did nothing.
On her way from school. Okay? What are people looking for? Church wants Ruto not to pick politicians as CSs. I am not sure that picking non-politicians is a solution.
Why?
I'm not sure. See, it's a debate we've had among ourselves for the longest time about looking for people with integrity. Yes, we have seen people who we believe to have integrity. If you listen, for instance, to the conversations and the statements that the CS for Interior, Professor Kindiki used to make when he was a senator, that man was prophetic. The situation we find ourselves in, he spoke of it. He actually spoke of it when he was a senator. He then becomes a CS.
It's like you think it was his evil twin.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing two very different people and you're wondering,
who's this guy?
What happened to that other guy that we witnessed, and one who once said, it's a good thing we have such a person in such a position? Or is it that the man was given a job that perhaps he had not fully prepared for, or was beyond the capacities that he had? What is it about this job? So when you're talking about choosing people of moral character, I am of the view that we should choose people with good moral standing.
Yeah.
And the vetting, Parliament will do their thing, but I am confident and I am certain that the citizenry will also do their vetting of the individuals who are appointed.
I think so.
Or who are selected.
Yeah.
The question is not the appointment. The appointment is just the beginning. Unless these people know that they are going to be held to account for the responsibility they have, they will turn out exactly the way the others before them have turned out.
And that's why, to me, what like Mark Bishachi was saying yesterday about you have to keep people on tenterhooks all the time, knowing that so the appointment is just the beginning. That's the beginning of the race. That through whatever it is that they do, they must have an understanding that people are going to keep them accountable, and that people are going to be watching their every move. People are going to be listening to their every word. People are going to be preempting every action.
Yes.
And if you know that somebody is watching you, the likelihood of you actually doing your job properly then increases significantly.
It does.
And it has to be the situation. That's why nations flourish, because their people are insisting that you're actually doing the right thing, not some of the time, but all of the time.
You see, when it's the norm for you to do the right thing, then this conversation becomes almost immaterial. But because our lived experience, once again, is that
you do the wrong thing.
Yes, the mistrust has been built over time, and the thing you're guaranteed of is that what you expect to be done is what will not be done. That's what the problem is.
You can almost be guaranteed.
Yes,
that's what is going to happen.
And then you'll be told stories around what should be done and stories of what is anticipated. But what ought to be done, you will be given a narrative to explain that what you know has not been done has actually been done. But that only happens when people who have the authority and the power that is delegated know that they can get away with it.
Exactly. So the time is up. The bell is ringing. You will not get away with it anymore. And I think it's at the precipice of that understanding that, folks, you know what? Bring whomever you want to bring in, but just know that, number one, we're going to be looking at these individuals. We can even tell you, no, not this one. And then number two, should they then get appointed, we're going to be watching everything that they do, listening to everything that they say.
Believe me,
day in, day out.
Parliament will vet. The citizenry will also vet.
Exactly.
And you may accept that individual as Parliament. The citizen will tell you, this person we don't want.
Precisely.
I am looking forward to a situation where there are people who will be appointed. Because they know themselves well, they'll decline.
Exactly. They know. Please just allow me.
I honestly don't need this because it's going to put me at crosshairs with certain realities. So I'd rather not
be crosshead.
What do you think the people in the counties were feeling yesterday?
It was crazy. 23 counties. Nairobi is used to this because the protests happen in Nairobi regularly. But these protests were taken to the door of county governments across the country. Right? Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Kakamega, Homa Bay, Kilifi, Migori, Baringo, Kericho, Narok, Siaya, Nyeri, Kisii, Nyamira, Turkana, Embu, Meru, Nairobi, of course, Machakos, Trans Nzoia, Makueni, Kajiado, and Taita Taveta. Right at the front, county headquarters, where folks are saying, hey guys, here we are. Now,
Like in Kibwezi, 2 people were shot dead. Okay.
So, and Nakuru 1, shot but not dead.
Yes.
But still, it's across the country, and we're looking at a situation where it's not business as usual anymore.
But if I look at the street of Nairobi, by and large, that frenzy of violence that one witnessed, that one has gone down.
Yeah.
I don't know, this order for tear gas, is it that we must extinguish it?
As in finish it?
Yes, because I keep wondering, why must tear gas be lobbied as often as one sees it?
It's a tool.
For what purpose?
To disperse crowds. To get back to where you've come from. Don't do this business in the city. Essentially, that's what it's for, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah. So, let me give you another story here. Ruto has got a proposal. And if his proposal goes through, counties are set to lose 20 billion shillings if the Senate approves Ruto's proposal. Now, county governments will lose 20 billion shillings in equitable share of revenue this financial year if a proposal by President William Ruto is adopted by the Senate. This follows a decision by Ruto not to assent to the County Allocation of Revenue Bill 2024 and instead returning it to the Senate for reconsideration. In the presidential memorandum communicated to the House on Thursday, Ruto wants the Senate to reduce the shareable revenue from 400 billion to 380 billion. Now, the new figure is 5 billion shillings less than the 385 billion that the county governments received in the last financial year 2023-2024. According to the memorandum, in exercise of the powers conferred to me by Article 115 of the Constitution, I decline to assent to the County Allocation of Revenue Bill 2024 and refer the bill for reconsideration by Senate. I recommend the bill be amended by deleting the first schedule and replacing it with a schedule that is attached to the memorandum. And of course, this schedule is what is talking about the money. The bill was presented for assent on June 28th, but Ruto declined, citing the failure to enact the Finance Bill 2024. And he said, essentially, if we don't have the Finance Bill, we don't have the money that will be required to send 400 billion shillings to the counties over this financial year. So obviously, what that means is that there needs to be then a reduction in the allocation to counties. Speaker Amason Kingi directed the Finance and Budget Committee to table its report before the House on or before tomorrow, with members expected to vote to approve or reject the President's recommendations on the bill. So they can actually still say, okay, that's very nice, but we still want our 400 billion, but let's see.
Actually, if there are going to be reductions, everybody must tighten the belt.
Exactly.
If we are going to be reducing the amount of money that government spends, it's governments. It is the national government as well as county governments. It can't be that other people are having their budgets cut and then you feel that you cannot have... No. Everyone.
Let me tell you what Dr. Boni Khalwale said. He's the majority whip in the Senate. And he said, many senators strongly believe that the county shareable revenue should remain at 400 billion, surprise, surprise, since this was a negotiated amount by the Senate and the National Assembly. All these things people are talking about doesn't make sense because we negotiated. See, we talked about it. Then now, just because they rejected the finance bill, why does that mean that we need to suffer? No, we had agreed before 400 billion is a go. It's what's supposed to be.
I'm afraid not.
No?
I'm afraid not. We can't be asking the national government to reduce the expenditure and then the county governments expect that they cannot reduce theirs. Everybody has to reduce. It's across board. Otherwise, the changes are superficial. It can't be that we're now choosing, well, you national government, you can reduce yours, but ours stays exactly the way it is. No, that doesn't make sense. That's double speak.
Sindeo?
Yes, it's absolute double speak.
Senators across board are now saying that the president has no business whatsoever in coming into this conversation and deciding what Senate will do or not do.
It's a proposal.
They have already discussed.
It's a proposal.
So now they've said you can propose, but we decline.
Then Senate will be acting in bad faith. If everyone is tightening their belt, it means everyone. Yes. If it's pay cuts, it's everyone.
Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna said the president has got no role in how counties share revenue. We have decided that we are not to allow counties to lose even a single shilling or a single coin from the 400 billion shilling that we passed as a Senate. We are going to challenge the recommendations of the President memorandum on the floor of the House. Richard Onyonka, who is also a member of the Finance and Budget Committee, said said that it's processing the President's memorandum and that they would leave it to the House to decide. The Division of Revenue Bill is an annual law that provides for the equitable share of revenue raised nationally among the counties. So this year's bill was passed by the Senate on the 11th of June. And according to many senators, from the sentiment that we're getting here, it remains so. Always go back to the thing that you say, look, senators in the graduated scheme of things eventually want to become
governors.
Exactly. So
they do.
Are they going to want to throttle?
No. What it's telling you that nothing has actually changed. They want others to change, but they want to remain exactly the way they are, and they want the benefits that they feel should accrue to them in the future to remain exactly where it is. For heaven's sake, if it's change, it has to be change across board. Everybody has to change. It can't be national government change, Senate does not change, God knows who doesn't change, county governments.
Because after all,
well, yes.
we negotiated before you guys decided to reject the finance bill. And we had already agreed. So why should you now come and tell us because you rejected the finance bill, then we should not get the money that's supposed to go to counties? What are you drinking?
I mean, what sort of logic is that? What sort of logic is that? The very thing that these politicians accuse people who are allied to the ruling party and those who are in cabinet, they are practicing it before our very eyes. And we can see it. So how different are they from the people they keep criticizing?
That, my man, is a very good question. Because one would wonder, 20 billion shillings is a pretty penny. It would do.
It is a great deal of money.
Yeah.
We know that. Did the president instruct them? The president proposed.
He proposed.
Is he allowed to propose? Yes, he is allowed to propose.
Citing that as a result of the rejection of the Finance Bill 2024, they were not going to be able to do this. They would not be able to get the extra money. So what they needed to do was go back to the 380. They said, send it to us. It can never be us. We will discuss it, but I can tell you now that it's going to remain 400 billion.
You know something? Sometimes these false conversations that people keep insisting are honest conversations must cease. You cannot purport to represent people and you don't represent them in speaking the truth and lives. Look, there are many things the cabinet has done which were wrong. There are many things the executive has done which is wrong. We know this. But for heaven's sake, you just can't keep throwing away the baby with the bathwater. It's as though this government has not done anything right. Surely they must have done something right.
At least one, for goodness sake.
Huh? It can't be at everything this government has done is wrong. They have done many, many, many things which are wrong. Many. But, man, there's some things they've also done which actually work.
That's true.
Yes.
Can I quickly tell you about 99 things that Paul Kagame did right?
Yes.
Kagame secures fourth term in office with 99% of the vote. Well, it's official. Rwandan President Paul Kagame won a fourth term in office after winning a thundering 99.15% of the vote in an election where only two challengers were allowed to run against him. Those words are interesting. Were allowed to run against him. The outcome of Monday's poll was never in doubt, with Kagame ruling the country with an iron fist as de facto leader, then president for decades. This is interesting because this story is written by Agence France Presse. Okay? And look at the words, de facto iron fist president for the last 3 decades.
Which international outfit has
Agence France Presse is an AFP story.
Okay. So they've just stopped short of calling him a dictator.
Yeah.
So anytime you have somebody who has a firm grip on how he's doing things, he's automatically a dictator.
Iron fist de facto dictator. Yeah. Partial results issued by the Election Commission 7 hours after polls closed showed that Kagame had won 99.15% of the vote, even more than the 98.79% he got in the last poll 7 years ago. Democratic Green Party candidate Frank Habineza could only muster 0.53%, and independent Philippe Mpiabimana 0.32%, according to the results issued, with 79% of the ballots counted. So they had just gotten to 79% and already he was at 99%. So they had to, of course, finish the polling, but they could call it very early on. Now, the President, in an address from the headquarters of his ruling Rwanda Patriotic Front, RPF, the 66-year-old thanked Rwandans for giving him another 5 years in office. And he said the results that have been presented indicate a very high score. These are not just figures. Even if it was 100%, these are not just numbers. I mean, we'll end it there, but this is what he was saying. So one must ask, are we looking at a dictator, or are we looking at somebody who was getting things done in Rwanda and the people want to say, you know what? Do it again for another 5 years, Mr. Kagame.
Man, make it 10.
Make it 10, essentially is what they're saying. So, not a new president, but after the polls, you see that Kagame will take the reins of the country. It'll be interesting to see what he's going to do with that over the next 5 years. All right, so after financial crisis, what happens and how do you restore investor confidence in the country? That's the conversation that we'll be having with two gentlemen at 7 o'clock when we come into the top of the hour. Folks, good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. SpiceFM, Nakuru.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
You know, with politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana. Asante sana. CT Muga.
CT Lodge.
Muga, not Muga. He's here and here's the day's proverb.
One man marries a woman. Another man marries troubles.
Is he the same man?
Spice.
A lion cannot eat more than 2 donkeys. It would die a natural death because there is no ICU in the forest. In Kenya, it has become the situation that you cannot conduct 2 elections. In fact,
with the
Bukati,
same IBC.
You can't.
I tell you about this Indian friend of mine who was enjoying other Indians in the group. He wrote the word valve and told them, read it.
So how did he say it? I really want to know.
The valve. Because kina Edna, it's you've said the B's and the P's. Kila kitu mkisia akisema atasema opposite.
Opposite?
Ukisema yeye anasema opposite.
Opposite.
Ukisikiliza unasikia opposite.
The Situation Room, Spice. The only way to start your day.
Okay, so a few minutes to just past 7 o'clock, and traffic is busy in the city. Let's look at the Thika Superhighway. We're coming off the Allsops junction, and there's traffic going through. The service lanes are not looking too bad. It's going to slow down as you get towards Survey, where your service lanes come to an end, and as you approach Muthaiga Square, that slows down. Also coming off of Waiaki Way as you then get towards Chiromo. Some traffic there, bumper to bumper. Let's take a look at Kangunda Road, which started off the jump with quite some traffic, and that is heavy getting towards Outer Ring. Outer Ring itself is not doing too badly. Coming from North Airport Road at that junction through towards the Thika Superhighway will move without an issue until you get to that Kangunda Road junction area. It's also looking okay on North Airport Road going towards Cabana, so there's nothing to worry about there. There's a little bit of traffic as then you come towards Landis and then touching on Kamkunji. And that's about the size of it for now. Let's see what happens as we get into traffic hour in a short while, and we'll talk in the meantime on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 6 minutes after 7 o'clock on this 17th day of July. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. The Situation Room gets into its second hour this morning. Wherever it is that you're tuned in around the country, all our live streams are up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X, TikTok as well. So thanks for joining in on the conversation on different platforms. The conversation that sets the agenda around the country and indeed different parts of the globe when we are discussing certain issues and keeping those issues big on the conversation this morning. Thank you for being here this morning, and each and every one of you that is, as well as our audiences today on KTN Home. All right, as we get into it, our second conversation for the hour, we will do that shortly. But let's remind you that Stanbic says, you know what, if you make the switch, you can actually get some coins in your pocket. So where do you bank today? What do you do and how do you go about it? Stanbic says, well, let's take over that whole thing for you. And once you do that and actually load your account with 50,000 shillings, you can be a winner of the weekly draws where 200,000 shillings followed by 100,000 shillings and 50,000 shillings up for grabs, or the grand draw rather that takes place in September where there's 1 million shillings up for grabs followed by 500,000 shillings and 300,000 shillings. So there's something for you to win by virtue of the fact that you open an account with Stanbic. So how do you fancy if you then were buying a home and you were able to do that at a fixed percent of 9.5? Fixed rate 9.5 for the duration of your term. That's basically saying Stanbic is giving you money and you just return it after. Just return the same money, basically, because the rates are ridiculous, but they are true. And so you have an opportunity to switch to Stanbic today. Make the switch and enjoy all the wonderful stuff that is up for grabs. Okay, this hour we will be talking about restoring investor confidence after a financial crisis. Peter Gitao Karaoke, who is a director of Olive Limited, as well as Permanus Karaoke, the CEO and founder of Nyota Gemma Real Estate will be with us here and say, okay, so when things go all right, how are you actually able to re-inject confidence into the market? They will be with us shortly, even as we get into that conversation. And even as we talk about, restoring confidence in government, in making sure that things happen. These are some of the conversations that we are and have been having when it comes to what will the president do? How will he name his cabinet? How will he come back off a place where things actually got pretty ugly? And how do you actually re-inject that confidence in people? And those are the conversations that are taking place over the next couple of weeks, seeing what will happen in the country. What does it all portend? And this is one of those areas where we're saying, you know what, folks, if you're going to get a country to thrive, there are certain things that must be done. And how do you restore confidence, CT? Just by doing the thing.
It's a long journey. Because one doesn't lose the confidence of the people in a day. It's something that's over time. And in the same manner, if you want to restore it, you have to give it time. But the only way it works over time again is if you ensure that whatever you do is based on what you know the people have stated categorically they would like to see. And not only do you do it, talk about it, point people to how it's been demonstrated so that they can actually see what it is that you've said you've done. If you've done it and you keep quiet, it'll be assumed you haven't done it.
Have to do it and talk about it.
Yes, so that it can be examined and that we can determine whether what you say is actually true.
Okay, well, let's see what we talk about when it comes to investor confidence. And our guests for this hour are seated in the studio. Peter Gitao Karaoke is the director of Olive Limited, and Permanence Karaoke is the CEO and founder of Nyota and Gemma Real Estate Limited. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to have you in the Situation Room this morning. Karibuni sana. You're in the hot seats of the Situation Room, and we're getting into that conversation this morning. But before we do that, we're going to welcome you with today's proverb. CT has gone this week to Cabo Verde. He'll tell you where it is, and then he'll give us a proverb. And then your assignment, that's what we do. We have you in the hot seat, then we still give you work again. But okay. Then you tell us what these proverbs mean to you as we get into it.
Cabo Verde, otherwise known as Cape Verde, is it's an archipelago, it's an island country. Now this is the interesting thing. It's in West Africa, it's an island country, it's in the Atlantic Ocean. And it's comprised of 10 islands, 10 volcanic islands. I mean, the islands are mountains or regions which are volcanic. It was once upon a time a Portuguese colony. It no longer is. But yet it is one of the wealthiest countries we have on the continent. Yes.
Cape Verde.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of interest, it's also a country that has the majority of its citizens living outside the country. The Cape Verdeans who live outside the country are almost twice the number of Cape Verdeans who live within the country. Kenya seems to be heading in that direction.
Because we are exporting our labor.
Yes, we are. Now the proverb. A hot needle burns the thread.
Hot needle burns the thread.
Yes. What you want is your interpretation. And let me just say this, you can't be wrong. Because it is your interpretation.
Yes.
It's how you see it.
Okay. A hot needle burns the thread. So, what do you think about that?
A hot needle burns the thread. One, I think the needle and the thread have a relationship, a symbiotic sort of relationship.
They do.
And when the needle is hot, that means definitely it cannot function the way it's supposed to function. Because the thread definitely will be burnt. So that relationship will not really bind, will not really work.
It's a very good interpretation.
Yes, that's my interpretation.
What do you think?
I think by the virtue of what he has just mentioned,
yes,
the truth is a needle needs to be not hot for you to use the thread on the needle. So once the needle is hot, the thread will also be burnt, and therefore two wrongs cannot make a right.
Oh wow!
That's my understanding.
The interpretations are wonderful.
I know, I love it. I mean,
Very,
getting
very
into a
good.
place where you think that needle and thread, and here we are.
Yes.
It's always something that can now get you to connect with life as it is. Okay, so as we get into this conversation, restoring confidence after a financial crisis. And maybe even when the financial crisis is still kind of going on, and that's what we're talking about in the country today.
Yeah.
Right? So, Peter, let's start off with you, even as we get into it.
Yes.
Paint the picture of what's happening currently, whereby we say there would be a need to restore investor confidence. What's happening in Kenya today that maybe got that confidence to dwindle a little bit?
Yes, my introduction. My name is Peter Gitau Kariuki, Managing Director of Olive Limited, and also the Treasurer of RESA. RESA is an organization of real estate stockholders. This is an organization that was formed by real estate companies, those who want to do genuine business and would like also to make people own their homes. They are the creators of these homes. So when we are speaking about bringing or restoring confidence, especially in this industry that you are in, the real estate, it is because there were times majority of Kenyans were defrauded their hard-earned cash by rogue companies who really didn't do business in a professional way. So when we realize that when one company goes under, it affects the entire industry. The reason is there's that fear that while I commit my money or deposit some money or invest in this company, then I also lose my money. So we came together so that we can understand each other. That's the first thing. And also to weed out rogue companies that really are there specifically to just defraud people. And we know all of us that the industry that we are in, that is the real estate, is quite emotional, and everybody would like to own a property. The first thing that's once maybe after university you have just gotten some coins here and there, you want to have your own home. Where do you start? You start by buying a plot. Yeah, because the mortgage in Kenya is not really very active comparing with other developed countries, but we have already started somewhere, and we came together, companies, we are more than 200 companies who came together so that we bring confidence back, because people had lost confidence with real estate companies.
Because of the defrauding?
Yes, because of defrauding. The defraud start even from companies with maybe also registrars of the lands offices giving out fake title deeds and such. So, and we have so many examples of companies that has gone under with people's money. We have that in our nation. Majority of Kenyans know that, and that's why we came together so that we can restore that confidence. Yes.
And so, for you, from permanence, what would need to be done? Because it seems like for somebody who's been defrauded, they're saying, first of all, give my money back, you know, and we're saying, and then still come back to the market. What are some things that you actually would do to get to the point whereby that restoration process happens?
Okay, thank you. My name also, let me just mention, is Paminas Kariuki, the CEO of Nyotanjema Real Estate, and I happen to be the spokesperson of these people, the real estate stakeholders. To start with, when you say restoring confidence, it means there was a confidence at some point, but then it got lost. And therefore, the best thing that we need to do is to create an awareness. People perish for lack of knowledge. People perish for lack of wisdom. What has been happening is few people have taken advantage of the market and known that Kenyans are eager to own property. And property is very personal and very emotional, as he mentioned. So there has been that clamor for people to own property. And therefore, people don't take time. And Kenyans, we are known for being very ignorant of the small details. And you know, the devil is in the details. So you realize that people give fake or even unregulated agreements, which in the reality end up making people not become protected by law even when they are owning those properties. And therefore, what what RESA has come on board to do is to create civic education. Is because even if we keep on complaining, we'll not have a solution. It's also good to note that in this country, we didn't have a law that was regulating real estate sector in a very good manner. And therefore, people would go away. Even if they go to court, there is no law that is regulating how they are going to be executed. So it becomes a criminal case as opposed to a land injustice case. And therefore, we have had that problem. So why we came together is we realized all of us are faced by the same problem. When one company goes under, everybody else thinks we are all thieves. And I remember one day I was in the UK doing a presentation, and one person who is actually a bishop looked at me and said, "You know, you people are all thieves." And you can imagine, you have never stolen a coin from anybody, but you are generalized to be all thieves. And the same thing, if I came today and said here, all the journalists are rogues, I know I'll be quoted and I'll be misquoted, and this would be misunderstood. So I believe when the evil prevails...
If you say that, we'll understand you.
But you see, if I say all, it's not fair, because I believe there are still people who are doing the right thing, and people who are doing the justice to the industry. And therefore, we said evil prevail when good people do nothing. We came together so that we can be able to solidify our voice and even propose some bills to the parliament. We have tried this last year. We are hoping that they will still adopt some of the proposals we have done, because we want to propose self-regulation bills. I believe if there is no bill coming from the government, we can do self-regulation proposals, and then they can add to what the government wants, and together we make the industry a solid industry. And that's what we have been trying to do in the last 1.5 years.
You have a difficult task. You know, there are those who say that all of life is a data gathering process.
Sure.
Every time something happens, people store the information and they remember. Land buying companies have existed for a very long time in this country.
Sure.
And unfortunately, the story behind many land buying companies has never been good. Some go as far back as at independence, and some of those issues to date have not been resolved. To date.
That's true.
60 years down the line, the issues haven't been resolved. People who should have gotten their parcel of land still haven't.
Sure.
People gave money, and somehow that land ended up being owned by one person. You wonder now how this person owned this land, and many people gave them money. So yes, your task is a difficult one, but it's not an impossible one.
That's true. And I think just to add something to the same, the truth is, even the longest journey starts with one step.
Yes, it does.
We'd rather do a little good thing than wait for the evil to prevail forever.
You see, because you have time on your side in this sense.
Yeah.
With the time, new generations are coming in.
Yes.
And their experiences are not the same as their parents or their grandparents. And so long as they don't have the experience that their grandparents and parents had, they are willing to accept what they're being told.
That's true.
And if there is an adequate body of evidence that there are people who have benefited from the services that you offer, then it speaks for itself that, yes, these entities actually sell what is honest and what is true. And also, something else. The conversation around those who defraud others must actually be spearheaded by people in the industry. Because if you leave it to us, for instance, the media, to lead it, we may not work in something that may be in your interest. We will simply present it in a light that will give the impression that everyone who is in this particular
industry.
Yes, exactly. And that may not be true. So when you call out your own, then you get hold of the narrative. You have a say, or if not control of the narrative. If not, then you'll have now a new generation who have the same narrative as their parents and their grandparents.
That's true.
But now let me ask the question. The industry, despite the challenges it's currently facing, how has it fared in the economic situation that we have in the country as we speak now? How is the industry doing?
Okay, I can mention, then Peter can add something. The truth is, real estate industry will never go down, because land is a scarce commodity. And land being a scarce commodity, there is always clamor to get more and to own. And as you said about generational change, we actually realizing it's real. I represent the younger generation.
Yes, you do.
Which is actually not so interested in land because they have other things that they feel they can own to accommodate their lives. They just need somewhere to stay or a house to stay, and they can do their online jobs. They can do their go from work to other places, and therefore the market dynamics are real in our industry. What do I mean by this? It means that we need to now put value on the land so that the market can continue getting attractive to the said investors. However, since 2020, with the global recession and the wars in Russia and Ukraine and all those things that have happened in the last 4 years or 3 years, the business, the real estate sector in 2020 actually peaked because people realized that we no longer need to stay in rentals. We can own properties and build our own homes. I remember a certain area like Kenyatta Road. That area was not so much developed. But when 2020 came...
Kenyatta Road where?
Around Kenyatta Road, there's one estate I can quote.
Kenyatta Road, is it in Nairobi?
Around the...
I'm just asking.
Around the...
Not everybody who is listening knows where
Kenyatta Road, yes.
There you go.
Yeah, it's actually along the road.
Yes.
That is one place where people left from Kilimani, from their hired apartments, which they were renting maybe 150, 200,000, and went and put up some quick shelters. They bought property and put up shelters to have accommodation on their own land. And therefore, that year, as far as we were also complaining that the economy was going down or the COVID was very bad to the economy, the land and the real estate sector was in a boom indirectly because people changed the mindset.
That's very interesting. You know, I live in Kilimani. How come nobody told me about this land in Kenyatta Road?
That's why maybe we are here to help us. Because you see, until people realize, hey, you know, you could be living in Kilimani but living in your own apartment. That's also something different.
And what makes you think I would not like to have another apartment somewhere else?
That's why we are here to help that. Yeah, so it has been having that demand has been high.
Yes.
People wanting to own something they call theirs, because with the land, even if you put some iron sheet around it, that is a home. Regardless of where it is, you'd rather be having an iron sheet house coming from your own home as opposed to having a very posh apartment. Then your job goes down and you don't have somewhere you can call home. Okay. That's what happened after 2020.
Okay.
But yes, Peter can answer.
Maybe to add on that, the performance of real estate has been growing. And if you look at since 2020, since COVID came, in fact, the trajectory has been growing. The other thing is there is that increase of the middle income earners. That bracket of population is also increasing. The demand is there of land. The demand is there of homes and houses. So we can say generally the real estates have been performing well. It is one of the biggest contributors to our GDP. In fact, it contributes to 10.5% of our GDP. Looking at the multiplying effect, the support system that real estate is giving, from the banking, from manufacturing, those who manufacture cement, steel, those who manufacture glasses, all those, it's the real estate that supports all that. So multiplying effect of the real estate is very big. If you touch the real estate, definitely you will feel the effect of the economy. Because the reason is, I'm just giving an example. Go to, is it Kirinyaga Road or Nyamakima? Those who sell those wares, electricals, all of them depend on real estate. Because where do you go and do those wiring, these cables, all those? They go to China to come and import so that they can sell to those who are developers in the construction, because real estate is big. Look at the office space that has been, though COVID did shook the spaces, demand for spaces, because now the new norm is you can still work from home. But we still will need physical offices. So look at how maybe Kilimani, the Upper Hill, the Westlands, all of these areas, how they have grown. They are still growing and demand is there. The new bypasses that have been constructed, in fact, is attracting new investors. And you see an area growing with an example of the Eastern Bypass and how it has grown and it has impacted the economy of such areas that were not really developed. And if we look at the real estate, I can attest, I'll tell you, even with the devolution, new economic areas have been growing is within the real estate, and that's why it has been infiltrated by rogue companies or people who are there to defraud people, because the demand of land is there, the demand of houses is there. Either if you are doing an off plan, it's still there. So, and that's why we came together. When you realize the demand is there, and people, those who are not really in business, they don't have good intention. Yeah, the diasporian remittances, because that's where the key is. Majority of diasporians, they don't have trust with their own families. They don't have trust with their own brothers and sisters.
Do you blame them? How many pictures have we seen in the last few years where somebody comes back and they would have expected that a house would stand on a piece of land?
In fact, they trust companies more than they trust their families. So, and we realize there are also people who are taking that advantage. And in fact, looking at when the shilling was really very low against the US dollar. In fact, we receive more businesses because with few dollars you are able to buy an apartment, you are able to buy a certain land in a prime area because of the exchange rate. All of these dynamics shows that the real estate is really still growing. It's not really being shaken by the hard economic situation. The only thing that I can say is, when we had these floods, it really affected our businesses. The reason is some areas are not accessible because of the rains, and now the fear of even the areas that were really not known for flooding, they really flooded, and that one really affected our businesses. For this quarter of the year, the second quarter of this year, the businesses were really affected. But that one is short term. But in the long term, the trajectory is the industry is growing.
Let's take a break on that note. Yeah, we'll take a break and come back, because then questions are already popping. How then will you then be able to differentiate between somebody who is legit and somebody who is a rogue seller? How do you know what to do? Because it does affect the industry, whether you like it or not. So folks are going to start asking the questions. How do I know that I should come to, Olive? How do I know that I should come to Jam? How do I know who to go to and that they're not going to, swindle me out of this few coins that I have, amongst other things? So that's all part of restoration, I would imagine. But let's come back and look at some of those in more detail as we do. Restoring confidence in the real estate sector is what we're talking about this hour. It's 29 minutes to 8 o'clock. We'll be back after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you're willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
14 degrees and a bit of a sprinkle still in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 13. 14 will be the low in a mostly cloudy Nakuru, highs of 22, and it's 14 and cloudy. Going to highs of 18 and lows of 13 in Nyeri. Cloudy at 14 in Eldoret with highs of 20 and lows of 13. While into a mostly cloudy Mombasa 22, we'll see highs of 29. Malindi is sunny at 24 with highs of 29. While at 21, it's cloudy in Kisumu with highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 26 in a cloudy Kakamega at 19. Cloudy at 20 in Kampala with highs of 27. While Dar es Salaam is sunny at 22, we'll see highs of 30. Mogadishu this morning is cloudy at 26 with highs of 29. While at 13, it's cloudy in Addis Ababa with highs of 19. Johannesburg at 10 degrees is clear with highs of 22, and Lagos is cloudy at 25 with highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 29 in a partly cloudy Kinshasa currently at 20.
Spice up your life.
So traffic on the Thika Superhighway this morning, extremely heavy. It's coming in all the way from way beyond Kasarani on the Thika Superhighway. And then we have traffic then seeping its way through towards Garden City. And then as you approach that Allsops Junction and out towards Pangani, through and through towards the underpass, it's bumper to bumper. So that's very busy. In comparison to yesterday, it's quite something. On Kiambu Road as well, we're seeing quite some traffic as you get towards Muthaiga Square. That's going to continue for some time. There's been that smidgen of traffic on Waiaki Way heading out towards Chiromo. And it looks like it's going to be there for a little bit as folks trying to make their way through towards the exit of the expressway, or then trying to come through the loop and then head out towards Riverside. So that continues. We're looking at traffic on Uhuru Highway. It's heavy at your junctions as you get out towards Haile Selassie. Some traffic on Langata Road is starting to build up as you approach the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Jogo Road is busy. We're looking at traffic coming off Ngong Road. Everywhere you look, we are actually knocking on the door of traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we get into it this morning. Let us know if you find a good route that folks can use this morning. Or if you get stuck somewhere, send the alarm and we'll spread the word. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, into 25 more minutes of this conversation where important issues around restoring investor confidence in the real estate sector. Peter Gitao Karaoke is the director of Olive Limited, and Permanence Karaoke is the CEO and founder of Nyota and Gemma Real Estate. And we're looking at really getting back into where people's confidence is vested in this sector, where unfortunately a lot has happened. Siti had a question.
I did. This association that you have, who does it include?
Okay. This association is made up of companies which transact in real estate. Mm-hmm. So what happened, there was an issue where one company had gone under with people's money in 2023 February. And that affected all our collections from our customers. Mm-hmm. And not only from one company, from another. So we called each other because we know each other as directors. And we said, you know what, we need to come together and enable people to know that even if this has happened with one company, it's not all companies that do the same. So we came together, we had our first meeting. I remember we were at Muthaiga Golf Club, and we just met there to discuss how do we manage our industry and weed out rogue developers. That is what led to this, and we called upon people. We have a vetting process of who joins the association so that we don't just bring anybody. Number one, it's good to understand we being members in the industry, we know each other. There are some companies which have been, or people that have been starting a company, they go under with people's money, they rebrand and start another company. And you as a customer, you don't know that they have just rebranded and put in on a new face of another company. So because we know each other, we know nobody in our group can do that because we'll be able to hold them accountable. So we came together to bring each other, to hold each other accountable. And I can say this, some of the issues that make people go under with people's money may be very small things that can be controlled. Some example, last year, as the association was continuing, there's a company which was unable to process titles because it didn't have 600,000 Kenya shillings. And the customers had stopped paying because they had promised them titles maybe in 14 days, in 30 days, and then they are not able to deliver that within that period.
Sorry, Perman, can I just interject?
Yes.
What would make that situation happen? I think we need to understand that. What would make it that an organization that is selling land, property and is promising a title deed, is it that it is based on monies that people will pay first for you to be able to process? What would make it that you don't have the money to then process the titles for folks that would now cause some kind of, problem?
I think the excitement that comes sometimes with newcomers into the market, they want to overpromise customers. They are going to deliver this within a very short time, and they don't do the cost, the way you forecast your cash flows, and realize that you cannot be able to do that within the period that you have said. So you promise people will deliver the titles within 14 days. These customers say, we'll pay once you deliver. The person doesn't have the money. They were expecting to get the payment because anyway, you don't process titles from your own money. You should process from the customer's payment for the legal and transfer fees. So you promise I'll deliver even before you do that. And therefore, customers decide, we'll wait and see. So before you know it, you are not able to deliver in that case. So he had a deficit of around 600,000 in his cash flow projection. We can see there's money that is out more than even 3 million. The customers have said we are not processing the title because the title is not in your name as we had promised. So what do? We had to come in and contribute and support this guy, but we held him accountable by taking his receivables and tell him, for the money, before you receive any other money, once you get the title, we'll get the title for you. So we pay the 600,000 for the person or for the company. It was a young company. Let me just say to put it into context. We paid the 600,000 for the company, but we demanded that for the title to be released from the association, you must pay us. And when the customer saw the title is indeed in their name, they got the confidence to pay the money. So if this would not have happened and it went out into the public, the people would have said this guy is selling fake land, yet the guy is, because he had not planned his business accordingly. Another thing that we are doing as an association to bring sanity into market is because some people start the business without the know-how of how to sustain the business. You can easily start a business, but sustaining it requires a lot of financial discipline. And in our sessions, we have been doing financial training, we have been doing financial enlightenment to the directors of companies. So we are not only meeting to discuss which is the best upcoming area, we're also discussing how can we empower ourselves, because some of us have financial knowledge. I'm a finance student, for instance. He is also a finance student, but there's somebody who has not done finance, but this industry is actually a financial industry by its cost. So we need to do the civic education. We call people who are mentors in the marketplace to come and speak to our members so that we don't get to the same problem, because it's only a fool who does the same thing the same way and expect different results. So if we are doing the same business the way it was being done 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 10 years ago, we'll still have the same problems. So what has helped us is to make sure we also do civic education. So when we came together, we can advise our members or the public to go to our website. We even have a shortcode. I know Peter will mention about the shortcode, but our website, any company listed there, if you have an issue with them, please be free to comment and send a complaint to our email, because unless we hear from members, the members of public, we don't know what has happened and their experience with the said companies. So we have the list published. And tomorrow, which is going to be the 19th or 18th,
Yes, 18th.
Tomorrow we are going to be having a certificate issuance to all our compliant members. And this certificate is going to help us to be knowing, if you go to a company to buy property, check whether they have that certificate. The reason we are saying this, we are not a regulator. It's good to state that, because again, we may be misquoted that we are regulating. We are not regulating by the government. We are not regulating as a government body. But by the virtue that the one has that certificate, in case anything was to happen to you as a customer, you can be able to raise a complaint through the association, and the association will be enjoined in that case and help you follow up to the end. But without that certificate, we cannot be able to ascertain that this is our member. We already distance ourselves and say, we are not part of that company, they are not part of the association, so we cannot be able to comment on it and let the legal courts take it action.
Okay.
And finally, when the certificate is given, it's not going to be there forever. It's a certificate that is annual certificate. Because today, this year, you may be performing very well. Then next day is when you decide, I'm going to go down with people's money. So we have to always be getting that renewal of the certificate annually to ensure we are giving people who are also delivering to the customers. I think I have mentioned it.
So, Peter, how do we know if somebody who off the bat is rogue or not? Because look what Permanence has just said. You could start off and you're all right, and you're doing and delivering. But then the next year is when you decide you're going to trot off with people's money. So in the beginning, everything, sounds like it was fine. Then what happens after that? How do I know? Somebody living in the diaspora, for example, living in Europe and is sending money back home. How do you know that this is the person that I can actually do business with? Or somebody who's sitting right here in front of your nose. How do you know that this person is actually worth this, what they're saying, and that I can actually invest my money there?
When we came together as an association, we were trying to bring regulatory or to restore confidence to clients also who buy from different companies. It's very hard to identify one just by the look of their office. In fact, those who refer people, they have very executive offices. Yeah, you cannot imagine. In fact, you cannot even suspect them. But for those who want to know our members, we have a short code, 23878. Once you send that, the name of the company that is selling land to you, in fact, you see if he's one of our members. Also, you can call our numbers 0742 23 23 23. That number, in fact, we've been receiving so many complaints since we started last year. And majority of complaints were coming from diasporians and also Kenyans who are local Kenyans, the locals. And initially people had no shoulder or nowhere to go and maybe to claim or to take their grievances. And sometimes legal matters are very expensive for a normal person to maybe to afford. And also, it takes a lot of time, long time, before the cases are concluded. And some of these cases are maybe civil cases because there is an agreement. What we are really trying to do, even to the masses, is to give them that civic education. The processes of acquiring land is not a one thing. It's just not like a bread going to buy in a shop or picking it on a shelf. It is a process, and you must know. Look at when we didn't have LSK, the Law Society of Kenya. So many people had fraud over their money. Their compensation were not being paid. The reason is because we had somebody who have decided they will not pay. And when LSK came in, at least we have seen sanity in the industry. There are so many other institutions, ISPAC, also so many institutions that have come together so that they can self-regulate. And also, when the government is calling who are these stakeholders to bring their views on a certain bill, who are there? Who are they going to approach, especially in the real estate? So when we came together, we have managed even to intervene in certain bills that were introduced in counties like Kiambu, that was very retrogressive, that they were introducing everywhere you must pay rates, even the remotest place, and we really pushed through our legal team, and they are able to pull down that bill. So the real estate, RESA, is here also to protect the interests of our locals, because majority of people don't know these laws are being introduced. Like now, the introduction of the bill, I don't want to go to that route. But the thing is, if we don't have a voice, we don't have people who know about that industry, definitely there are laws that might come that are very punitive, even for you to acquire land. There are so many introductions. There are so many introductions of fees when you want to access services, government services, and we have subjected them to courts, and they have been halted through RESA. Initially, there was nobody to protect or to fight for people who want to own properties or in that industry. Not really those companies, but also everybody. But who might be affected. So I want to repeat our short code. If you want to know those who are registered with us, you just send the name of the company to 23878. That you will receive. You can also go to our website, www.realtorsolutions.com. You will see all the companies that have been listed there. And majority of us are there so that we can bring sanity back, because people had lost confidence in this industry of real estate. And that's why we'll be having our issuing certificate tomorrow at Kentmere Limuru, where we'll be issuing the members who have complied. Yeah, we usually subject them to a rigorous process. Yeah, using so many means, we don't want to disclose them here, so that we are able to identify, have you ever been found in this area in a business that is not really worth that is not really done in a professional way. We really subject every company that would like to join us. We are open. We want to be as many as possible. Imagine we have almost 13,000 registered companies
who are doing solid.
Those who are doing real estate. No, those who are in the real estate.
Okay, let's just put them there. Okay, blanket.
Yes, 13,000. So, and out of that, how do you identify one that is genuine?
This
is very hard.
Yeah.
And that's why we realize, no, once one company has been affected, it really affects the entire industry. And you look at the developers also, the industry is very wide. There are the developers, there are those who usually specifically sell land, there are those who specifically develop and sell off-plans, apartments, and also standalone houses.
That was the next question. Okay, so that was the next question actually, Permanus. The off-plan scheme has, for many people, been a scam. Because you're going to buy a house off plan with the promise that it's going to be cheaper, and that the money that you pay essentially is what they're going to use to complete the house and then hand over the keys. There have been too many stories of how the off plan remained just that, off plan, even after you spent your money and then people disappear. Is it today still one that can be bought into by people and that you will actually get a return on your investment?
Let me say, and luckily I have also interacted with the off-plan projects in my former employment. The truth is, off-plan is a very, very great idea, but it has a very thin line to separate between clients' money and your profit. The biggest problem we have had with off-plan is you get the money, so customers pay in lump sum, maybe pay a deposit of 25%, 30%, and once they pay, you already know your projected profit is maybe 20% or 25%. So before you even start the development, you start managing and feeding on your profit. So it's a matter of prudent financial management, because there are still companies which have been there for long and they have been able to sustain off-plan. And the biggest issue is the benefit of off-plan is affordable, and you get a flexible payment plan without necessarily going to the bank to borrow money, because you can be given up to 24 months, and some companies give up to 36 months. But it goes upon the discipline of the developer, and that is why we have organizations like KPDA, Kenya Property Developers Association, which brings together developers to see whether they can be able to also self-regulate such developments. However, the problem we have had is, once the customer have paid the deposit, it excites the developer to feel like they have the money, yet the money is not theirs until they complete the project. Another good example is, I am doing an apartment of 10 floors. I have a customer who pays books an apartment on the 10th floor, then another one in the first floor. And I'm depending on the customer's money to develop this property. So when the 10th floor guy pays the whole amount and the first floor guy doesn't pay, I'll never be able to do the 10th floor apartment without the money for the first floor guy. And therefore, the best way to handle off-plan, I believe, and this is an advice I can give to developers, is have an alternative source of financing. You don't depend on pre-sales to develop the property. You'd rather have an alternative financing from maybe the bank or strategic investors, so that in case the customers delay in their payments, you don't delay developing because of somebody else's problem. And I believe that is the only way we can sustain off-plan projects. The companies which have done that is because they have an alternative source of financing, and therefore the investment they are depending on to develop those houses is not coming from pre-sales, because a customer can lose their job and they don't pay you the next month, and yet you're expecting that money to pay for the same. And finally, the other best way to handle off-plan is to have contractors who can be paid on certificates. So they build, and then you pay to ascertain the work that after the QSs have ascertained the work that has been done. If not so, you are depending on your contractor, is depending on your money to work for the project. What if you don't have that money?
Right.
It messes up the whole process. And therefore, off-plan is still a prime opportunity, but needs to be approached in a very sober way and disciplined again. Because
there's also this little matter of the sort of land that people build on. We've heard of people building on riparian land.
Yes.
We've heard of people who sell swamps during the dry season. So you do not know that, yes. And then it rains and you suddenly find you're in the middle of a lake. So the flooding exposed many things.
Yes.
Beyond what I've just said, it also exposed the sort of infrastructure that ought to be in a development, which we have found to be lacking. And then there's a third problem that we now see creeping into the city, that of boreholes. And you find boreholes being excavated and erected, and at the same time, soak pits being erected, meaning a sewer system that would cater for everybody, given just the increase of development, isn't quite there. So this, in my mind as a layman, is a problem that is a time bomb. It's looming. I can see it.
That's true.
Now, you, as an organization, clearly, this is something that could damage your business beyond repair. Because at the end of the day, the person who sold you that property that you're going to go to, you will forget that you have a duty to do due diligence. That you'll put aside.
Yes.
You, Peter, you're the one who sold me this land. So it is you I'm going to come to. How exactly does the association look into the future and deal with the problems that will most certainly come to bite them in the future?
Maybe to answer that question is, it's good to understand that before you even do the subdivisions of land, you must pass through the process of approvals from the relevant county governments. And we have a planning department in every county. Yeah? Those who have already done their spatial plans in terms of this land is supposed to be used for this purpose and such. So we squarely rely on the county governments because they are the only institution that are able to give us the plan. Before you do any subdivision, before you even produce those title deeds, you must pass through that process. They are the one who approves before the issuance of the title deeds. That's a process that the counties are following. Before you are being issued the title deed by the national government, you must have the approvals from the relevant county government. Is it placed or is it set aside for riparian? Is it set for public utilities? That is where everything starts. So at inception, that's where it's supposed to be managed. Matters with borehole, and also there is WARMA. That is the authority that is supposed to regulate the boreholes, so that we don't have 20 boreholes within a radius of half a kilometers.
When I buy land, do you think I consider everything you're saying here? It is you whom I know.
Yes.
It is you whom I'm going to
Let me tell you, because majority, when we say we usually sell properties that have we have added value, usually have those boreholes in place.
Yes.
Yeah, or we have set aside, we have acquired with relevant licenses from WANMA or the authorities that is supposed to give us to issue those licenses. So the company, when there are even the roads that we usually do, the county governments, planning departments are the ones who come actually to verify if it was supposed to be 9 meters or 12 meters. Is it really on the ground the same? If I was subdividing 10 acres and I've given provision of roads for like 2 acres, is it actually reflecting the same? That is the work of the county government planning department. And so we have regulatory bodies that are there to make sure everything goes well. But you know what? If they are compromised, now that means it's not about maybe in fact, what we are doing as RESA, we made sure that our companies, the companies that are under us, comply to the latter.
Okay.
Yes.
So now this event that you have tomorrow, essentially for the issuance of certificates to these organizations, what impact is it going to have? And maybe just give us a little bit more about that in terms of information of what happens tomorrow. And then now, what folks who have been on the losing end will then be able to benefit by the issuance of these certificates?
So do I go?
Please do.
I think the first thing I should also have added, just one very quick one. I think the biggest challenge you have had in Kenya is corruption. Let me call it as it is. So those officers, from the WARMA, there's a regulation of how many boreholes can be in a certain area, within a certain radius. But because of the persistent corruption that has been there, this has not been happening. So to say this, I support the current movement and the current appraisal by the Kenyan youth to say no to bad governance. Because if this was not happening, you cannot approve 2 boreholes in the same next to each other plots.
Sure.
Because actually you are going to finish the water body. And by the end of it all, we will be suffering, having no sewer and developing high-rise apartments. So that aside, there's something else that also is happening. There are disaster. I advocate for the government to implement a disaster. Because you cannot be able to verify a title deed from wherever you are online. And that is what we intend to be able to give confidence to our customers. But finally tomorrow we intend to issue certificates to those who have complied. We have not rejected, we have not neglected anybody. We have caught everybody in the real estate sector. And unfortunately, we have also had some people who had come on board and we had to re-register them when we realized there were so many complaints coming from the customers. So tomorrow, the people we are having on board are people we have verified, we have vetted, and after 1 year, you can actually, if you have an issue with any of the companies, within the year, you can be able to raise it to the association, and the association will take responsibility. Without that, initially it was one man for himself and God for us all. So that's what was happening. So thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here this morning, enlightening conversations about how people can actually protect themselves in this dog-eat-dog society, essentially, is what it looks like. Peter Gitao Karaoke, the director of Olive Limited, and Perminas Karaoke, the CEO and founder of Nyota and Gemma Real Estate. Thank you for being our guest this hour, and we look forward to more conversations in the future.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kisumu.
Below, Nindinter, Yeninter, you Markati Kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Kismuga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
The baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys and walikuwa na uza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
When you're impeached, you're impeached. When you are sentenced, you are sentenced.
Madam Chief Justice.
Until the sentence is set aside. Ukibeba vitu kwa roho utakufa. If you carry things in your heart, you will die.
The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No. It's about shipping out. You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the ship in the bathtub? Or
the ship man?
One of the Talamu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they've been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about a ship or a ship goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyan.
Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe za baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives the real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nduthai, nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again. Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. People hiding here and there, but after 2-3 months, 5 months, now you see. So that is why the attitude that you are showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. You cannot pickpocket a naked man.
How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
At a few minutes after 8 o'clock, traffic in the city has built up quite some as you're coming off of Thika Superhighway. We're looking at that really heavy bumper to bumper from Garden City through towards the Allsops Junction. There's some traffic coming off of Outer Ring. It's going to touch on that junction as well, but it's going to take us through towards the Pangani Underpass. That is very busy this morning. Kangunda Road, busy, very busy in both directions as it touches on Outer Ring. And so we're looking at this whole northern area. With quite some traffic this morning. It's starting to build on Jogo Road, and Landis Road now is chock-a-blocked as you get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. On Gong Road, there's quite some traffic as you get towards Community and then out into the city via Haile Selassie. Okay, what's coming out of Westlands? Some traffic on James Gishuru. It's crossing over to the Red Hill Link Road, and it'll take us out into Westlands and then through towards Chiromo. Slowly, but you'll get there eventually. Chaga Chaga is what we're talking about this morning. Let us talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 8 minutes after 8 o'clock on this 18th. No, okay, I was trying to be. This, I was hoping it would go nicely, 18th, but okay. It's 8 after 8 on the 17th of July. We're just going to have to go with it, folks. Sorry. Getting into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, we're going to have a health conversation with the good people from Jubilee Insurance. And as we do wait that and get all of that settled in this morning, just looking at some of the things that have been happening around the country. Where are you tuned in from? Our audience is on KTN Home. Asante Sana for being here. And also our live streams on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, on TikTok. Where are you looking for us? You will find us there as we set the agenda for conversations this morning. Have you made the switch? Have you made the switch to Stanbic? Think about it as you get into one consolidated front where all your money working for you, where you also get to win some kaching in terms of cash. Just because you opened an account with Stanbic, you can then now win some money because you put some money in. It's all about, using money to make money. Put 50,000 shillings in your just created account or carry on your account and you can have a chance to win in the weekly draws of 200,000, 100,000 and 50,000 shillings, or then towards the end of the final draw comes in September, when you're then able to win 1 million shillings, 500,000 shillings, or 300,000 shillings because you made the switch. All right, getting into the conversation for this hour, we're having a health conversation. And our guest is here this morning. Dr. Musa Misiani is the Chief Operations Officer at Jubilee Health Insurance. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Dave.
How are you?
Great to be here.
Great.
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah.
Great to be here, and welcome to the hot seat of Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Situation Room. We're going to be looking into health matters today and looking at how innovations have come about in healthcare delivery. But before you tell us what this is all about and we can ask you those questions, CT's got a little bit of an assignment for you. He's got a proverb from Cabo Verde, and he's going to tell us what that is, and then maybe we'll ask you to tell us what it means to you.
Okay.
A hot needle burns the thread.
A hot needle burns the thread.
Simple.
The way I would think about it is, you could have something for purpose, but if you are overzealous, it could actually derail your purpose entirely. Yeah.
If you're overzealous, it could derail
you entirely.
Yes, that is an excellent interpretation. Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Needle is a needle, but needle and thread make more sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now needle without thread, and all because it has decided to become hot. Then that's, yes, you've interpreted well.
Indeed. Great one to start off, I guess. Even as we get now through this and we're talking about innovations in the healthcare industry and how we can deliver health because of these innovations, let's just start off with Jubilee. I mean, we're talking about Jubilee for a couple of weeks now and getting to know a little bit more of what is up to offer, but then give us a broad base into, who Jubilee is and its unique place in society today.
So, Jubilee is through and through a Kenyan company. Founded in 1937. I'll speak specifically to Jubilee Health, which is part of Jubilee Group. Jubilee Group has Jubilee Health Insurance, Jubilee Life Insurance, and Jubilee Asset Management. We have a footprint across 5 countries in East and Central Africa. But for Jubilee Health Insurance specifically, we are a single-line insurer. We actually specialize in offering health insurance. And what we've done over time, because we've been pioneering in that space for some time, as market leaders, we have been able to push the market into offering solutions for insurance across the life spectrum, right from products for young people, all the way through the life cycle to old age, covering both retail customers, of offering also corporate products for corporates around the country.
And even as we look at what the offering is, what are some of these innovations that have come up with? I mean, because somebody would think, okay, yeah, it's great, it's insurance. You pay, you're covered, you move. So what are these innovations that we're talking about that have been life-changing in terms of healthcare delivery?
So I think from where we sit, being a single line underwriter actually has allowed us to really specialize in it. And what we've been driving as an underwriter is value-based healthcare, where we try as much as possible to focus on outcomes for our customers. And it's just not about getting the premium. It's really about delivering value, making sure that the customers that we cover not only enjoy the freedom of financial freedom of having a financial cover for health, but they also have access to care that actually permits them to either enjoy preventive care, and in the event that they get to curative care, we're able to cover that financial burden. But what we've been able, again, to do is derive products that respond to that and get into programs that respond to that, driving access. For example, we have pioneered a lot of technology in terms of driving access for care. Telemedicine, for example, is one of those that the pandemic really accelerated. We also offer drug delivery programs. We have a program which navigates our customers. We have that program is called Maisha Fiti, and this has built communities around different health themes. So, be it motherhood, we are able to walk the journey with a mother all the way from conception to raising a child. Be it someone who has, say, a chronic illness like diabetes or hypertension, we are able to navigate that patient and customer, giving them access to the right specialists, giving them the right information, making sure that we follow them up, getting their drugs delivered to them conveniently. And what we've seen with that, with some of these programs, is the fact that then that has helped our customers get better outcomes in the long term.
Can we look at three of these issues that you mentioned, starting off with telemedicine that came off, I mean, just when you talk about COVID. And then folks were not able to move. So what does this telemedicine include? What happens here?
So it depends. There's a wide spectrum to telemedicine. It could range from just a phone call to a doctor. You speak to the doctor on the other side, and then they give you health advice. It could extend all the way to a virtual consultation on video conference. And actually right now, because there are a lot of advances, it may not necessarily be localized here. You can even have remote surgery, because robotic surgery has moved to the point where you can actually have remote surgery. So telemedicine extends the entire spectrum from just consultation to intervention. But specifically to what happens currently in this country, it's largely around teleconsultation. So we have a few providers, and Jubilee was actually one of the pioneers in actually being able to reimburse for telemedicine consultations, where and currently what happens is that a provider is duly licensed as a clinic or a healthcare provider by the Medical Practitioners and Dentist Council, and then that provider then is able to consult, and you can have ranging from, say, for example, you want a diagnosis. Then there are people who offer mobile labs on wheels, and then for treatment you get to a point where you can be able to deliver drugs. So that extent, from consultation to diagnosis to getting the therapeutic agents, that entire journey has been covered in telemedicine.
Okay. And what about now drug delivery?
So drug delivery actually is, we live in a very convenient world. You want fast food, you'll get fast food. And if you want a cab, you'll just order a cab and get it. So it doesn't then surprise anyone that we would be able to move into a direction where drugs can be delivered, at your convenience. Initially, this started out with non-prescription medication, and then it's moved to now prescription medication. And wonderfully, what that has done, and I'll speak specifically to patients who have chronic illnesses, all often what would happen is every month or so, someone with diabetes or hypertension would have to go to a clinic and see a physician and then get a refill of medication. What the combination of drug delivery and telemedicine has done is you're able to consult virtually, and instead of having to go to physically to a provider, conveniently that those drugs are brought to you. Ultimately, that does reduce the cost of care because there is a cost in time that you spend in going to the hospital. And actually what we've also found is just the logistics of delivering the drugs, they end up being cheaper. So ultimately what then happens is you have better adherence to medication and at the end of it then you have better outcomes for the patient. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned and which caught my attention was the aspect of preventative care.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about this.
So we realize that curative care is very expensive. The technology outlay required to actually deliver curative care is quite expensive. If you take an example of just investment in a normal theater, a laparoscopic tower, getting to robotics and so forth, they're very expensive. Yet we can be able to prevent illness higher up in the spectrum of illness. So if you're in a country like our country where you have a double burden of disease, so you have both the communicable illnesses, the usual malarias, diarrhea, pneumonia, and so forth. And then now our population is changing. Our population is aging. Our life expectancy is going up. So you have a situation where we still have the communicable illnesses, but at the same time, we also have a burden of chronic illnesses, diabetes and hypertension, as the commonest in our country. So preventive care it actually arrests the illness upstream. And, typically, it used to be that you prevent communicable illnesses, sleep under mosquito net and so forth. But right now, what has happened then is for chronic illnesses, you can't necessarily prevent it, the usual public health way. So what has come as a new approach to it is to make sure that we are able to promote healthy lifestyles. We have changed continually to sedentary lifestyles. We are very urban, especially, you're going to get your fast food, you're going to drive all the way, you don't necessarily exercise as much. So promoting that healthy lifestyle is able, first of all, to prevent the occurrence of something like hypertension, and in some instances, able to reverse when it has developed. So that, in essence, then, in the long run, has, and it's proven, can be able to reduce the incidences of these illnesses and even prevent complications, because complications are very difficult to treat and expensive.
This brings me to a question that is biased because I fall in the bracket of people who would ask such a question.
Yeah.
When you talk of products, products are sometimes determined by one's age.
Yes.
Now, talk about products for those who are elderly.
So, typically as an underwriter, of course, you would want to understand your risk well. But I'll speak specifically to the experience of Jubilee, where we actually do have a seniors product. With a ceiling all the way to 80 years. For
how many years again?
80 years.
80?
Yes, 80. Okay. Yeah. And that experience of having covered individuals all the way to, like I mentioned, the spectrum from a child from a J junior product to a J seniors product, we cover you throughout that journey. It's difficult to get such products in the market because often the insurance industry traditionally would shun away from covering that population because it's construed as high risk, right? But then any risk can be priced. And it would be good that, you can be able to get that product and allay the financial burden of going through the chronic illness at that old age and so forth, and just open up opportunities that get you into the ecosystem of care that, for example, Jubilee would offer. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things you also mentioned was Maisha Fiti, and we've talked about it a little bit, but then, just give us an overview in terms of what that is about across the spectrum.
Yeah. So Maisha Fiti is a lifestyle. And the way we present it and the way to access it is we have an app on the Play Store and we have a few programs. But Maisha Fiti is really a lifestyle. And what Maisha Fiti does is it curates preventive care for different subsets of populations. So I give an example of the programs that we run. Within Maisha Fiti, we have the traditional corporate wellness, where we would be able to go to a corporate and screen the individuals there and be able to offer care that is tailored to them. That is the traditional way to approach it. But then we also have communities for mothers. We call it the Moms Club. I think so far we are about 5,000 mothers. Very active community. And what that community does is, the journey through from conception. There are mothers who are struggling with conception.
Yeah.
How do you get care? How do you get access? How do you get directed to the right people? How do you get support? The community support throughout pregnancy to delivery. And we sometimes think about these things are very routine. A mother would go to hospital and just give birth, and then that's it. But at the end of the day, that community of support does give them the required. How would I put it? Strength to go through that process. Then we have communities that are tailored to illnesses, chronic disease management programs. And this is where diabetes, especially, and hypertension comes in. And we also have a mental health program where we are able to support our customers. And actually, this has gone beyond our customers. We actually have built communities that are beyond Jubilee customers. And importantly, what actually ties all this together is a program we call navigation. So we're able to thread a member all through the system, the ecosystem of care that is currently available, and give those options available. This is delivered on a tech platform. We have a Maisha Fiti app. You can go to the Play Store, iOS store, download it. It should be able to deliver things like self-navigation. Who is my nearest healthcare provider?
Yeah.
Can I get drugs? Yeah, and we're building communities into that as well, so that we can be able to push tech into that space.
So what impact then does it have on folks who then are seeking this care? Because we've seen, okay, fine, there's innovation, the things that we never imagined that you could do, that you could get drugs delivered to you, the good kind. And then you can talk to a doctor on the phone. I mean, on things that easily 20 years ago you wouldn't be able to do. But what impact are we seeing that this has on patients that is making life a little bit better for them? Are we actually able to see that there is impact that can be measured and achieved because of these innovations?
Absolutely. I think you could look at it from several aspects. The convenience of care. Waiting times in healthcare are a nightmare worldwide. And no one really wants to go and sit in hospital and wait for 1, 2, 3 hours. What these tech platforms offer is that convenience of having access wherever you are. And what that access, the convenient access, has done is seeking care is easier. So people are actually seeking care much faster. And in a more convenient way. And that actually then leads to early detection, better treatment. The other bit of it is actually the cost of care. An average telemedicine consult, for example, and I'm not speaking this from an underwriting perspective, just a normal, even if you were to pay it in cash, would be around 1,500 shillings. If you were to walk to a hospital, just the cost of maintaining the brick and mortar sunk cost for that provider would actually push that consultation to an average of, say, 5,000 shillings or so. So the access in terms of finances, the access in terms of the convenience, what that has also allowed is, whereas specialists would not have been available, for example, in the former Northern Frontier districts, for example, we're able to deliver that there. And we've seen programs run by hospitals like Gertrude's, where a pediatrician is consulting in Moyale, a pediatrician in Nairobi consults in Wajir, and so forth. That access is actually very important, has actually pushed outcomes for patients.
Does it take away from what a person... Now, do these innovations take away from what a person-to-person consult would do? Because like when you go into hospital today, isn't it that they would say, well, okay, let's tell us what's going on with you, let's prick and prod you a little bit, take your blood, take your temperature, take your pressure, etc. Does it take away from any of that if I were to get on the phone and speak to somebody and they say, well, tell me how you're feeling, and then based on 1, 2, 3 you can do XYZ? What?
It actually it actually doesn't.
Okay.
A majority of the illnesses that that happen on a day-to-day basis would not necessarily require invasive diagnostics. And I'll give an example of a program that we're running at Jubilee. Instead of going to a pharmacy and getting a drug over the counter, we're offering an opportunity for you to actually consult with a doctor. And the partners that we're working with, in that pharmacy, there is a nurse. If the doctor over the phone wants to examine, the nurse will examine you, and then you will get a prescription. And at a certain point where the doctor feels, okay, no, this cannot be managed remotely, then you're referred appropriately. It's just that a majority of the illnesses that we face the day to day, they don't probably necessarily require that you actually would go to a hospital and have a barrage of investigations, which whereas the cost may be passed on to an underwriter here and there or out of pocket, it's not a victimless cost. It actually is a cost to the healthcare system.
Then there's the issue of understanding the possible illnesses you may have. There's always talk and there's always mention of having a health check. They have all sorts of names and they're branded differently. The idea is to try and figure out whether you're healthy, and if you're not, what it is that might ail you. Now, when you have a health cover, do health covers consider such costs where I can ask to go through a process that will determine what my health status is?
Absolutely. Actually, I think embedded in all Jubilee covers is an annual wellness check. What we encourage is have a continuous care, have continuity of care. You will find, at the risk of being controversial in the medical space, that a lot of the wellness packages, so to speak, assume that a human being is a chunk of organs, We'll do a heart check, we'll do a kidney check, we'll do a liver check, we'll do and so forth. This is a patient, and the patient has had a journey over time. And then this follow-up would allow the doctor who's been following up to be able to determine what is the most optimal test. I see, 25-year-old young men being screened for prostate illness. I mean, it's a cost. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not a victimless cost. That is a cost to the healthcare system that would be used somewhere else.
But isn't it better to have that check at that point in time? I'll say this because as someone who has consumed health products for a long time, it then becomes a pre-existing condition, does it not?
It does.
And then you as underwriters, it gives a little breathing space, does it not?
Yes,
I'm waiting for you to say yes.
No, not necessarily, no.
The command,
Not necessarily.
You see, if you are unwell, for instance, I'm hypertensive, okay? And I have a problem with my blood sugar. Okay, it's a pre-existing condition, and whenever I renew my health products, I declare it. I tell them this is what I have. Okay, now what it therefore means is that the amount that the insurance and the upfront, they tell you, we will cover up to 10% of your cover. You are told in advance. Now, why I'm asking this question of whether it is allowed, he has told me yes, they have that package of wellness, is because it is infinitely better, in my opinion as a layman, for an insurance company, an underwriter, to bear that cost of that health check so that you know. Because there are times you have an underlying condition and you actually don't know.
Yeah, it's true, very true.
You go to hospital exhibiting one condition, and the process they figure you have something else. Again, I say this from experience. You go in with one problem and you're told, actually, by the way,
we might have to look at this one.
That one you also have, but we've also figured you also have this. So from an underwriter's position, this is really my question. The 10% that you normally place as what you will cover for pre-existing conditions, why 10%?
So I'll go back a bit and just answer a bit on the wellness checks. Yes, they should be covered. They are covered. We cover them liberally. It's important for us to actually understand the risk going into the business. But you see, insurance is underwriting, and underwriting is a technical science in this sense that you are collecting a premium and you're likely to incur a cost that is exceedingly higher than the premium. Right? So what underwriting does is then, how would I put it, mitigate the risk. Okay? so that when you're accepting the risk, you are not going to have outflows that are way beyond what you've collected as premium.
Yes.
And there are those conditions that you already know, because if you look at an individual who comes in with a pre-existing condition, for example, they definitely would incur cost.
Yes.
So as opposed to, insurance works on a Pareto principle, 20% will claim, 80% will not. So if you have an individual who will definitely claim, then you have to either price that risk. So usually you'd find that they say, okay, we will accept with this condition, but then we will load a certain amount on the premium. So that the cost of that care that is definite is able to be covered. So that, again, as a business, you have to be a going concern.
Sure. Yeah. We're going to take a break, but in the meantime, there are many things to be discussed, Doc, but where do we find you? It seems that there's a number that people call, and I don't know if that particular phone is under the table. But, people complain that we try to call Jubilee, but nobody picks up the phone. How are we supposed to find you?
So, we have an omni-channel system of support. You can find us on our website, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and so forth. But we have a call center
with actual humans behind.
Yes, with actual humans. Yeah,
it's not automated.
No, it's not automated. It's one of those that has escaped automation. Right now, across business, everyone is onto automation, but Jubilee still retains a very human touch. You can be able to call through, and you will find that there will be a human on the other side who will be able to sort it out.
All right, it's 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. Conversations continue, and we are talking about innovations in healthcare and how those actually have an impact on what you will then be able to achieve when you're seeking that healthcare. Our guest this morning is just giving us some insights into how all of this works. Dr. Musa Misiani is the CEO, rather the COO at Jubilee Health Insurance, and we continue with this conversation right after the break. We come back and take a look at weather and traffic, and we'll be back, and the conversation continues after that.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
15 degrees in Nairobi, still cloudy and overcast. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 13. It's 14 that will be the low in a mostly cloudy Nakuru, currently at 17. 14 and cloudy in Nyeri with highs of 19, and at 14 it's cloudy in Eldoret, going to highs of 21. It's sunny at 25 in Mombasa for now, highs of 29, while Malindi will see highs of 29 as well. Kisumu is cloudy at 23 with highs of 28, and at 19 it's cloudy in Kakamega, going to highs of 27. Kampala this morning is cloudy at 20 with highs of 27, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 24 with highs of 31. It's warming up ever so slightly to 12 degrees in Johannesburg with highs of 22 and lows of 9, while Mogadishu is partly sunny at 26. We'll see highs of 29. It's cloudy at 15 after the morning showers in Addis Ababa with highs of 20 and lows of 12, while Lagos is cloudy at 25. We'll see highs of 31 and highs of 29 in a cloudy Kinshasa, currently at 20.
To SpiceFM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Okay, still busy in the city. We are still in traffic hour, and we're still seeing this long trail of traffic, bumper to bumper, coming inbound on the Thika Superhighway. Looks like it's going to be that way for some time. Up there coming in from Ruiru, it stops being a bit crazy as you then come through towards Kasarani out towards the Allsop stage. So that's what we're going to see the most of the craziness on the Thika Superhighway. But as you level through past the Pangani underpass, I think we'll be fine. Coming out of Westlands also, I think we're still seeing that issue right on Chiromo as you approach the city centre. Not quite sure what is cooking there, but some traffic still continues as you traverse that area. It's busy on Gong Road, but not at a standstill. Langata Road is okay. Some of that traffic is going then towards Raila Odinga Way. And some traffic is still coming off of Jogo Road as you approach Landis, which, by the way, is chock-a-blocked as you approach Kamkunji at the roundabout. Kangunda Road says, yes, we're here for traffic this morning. Still going to remain for some time. Keeping an eye on things. Talk to us. SpiceFM, KE on X. Hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, at 22 minutes to 9 o'clock, we continue our conversation this morning, and we're looking at innovations in the health industry. Dr. Musa Misiani, who's the COO of Jubilee Health Insurance, is our guest this hour, and just opening up some of these things and saying, okay, so what impacts do these innovations really have on the health sector? A big issue is information that I would give over the phone, via email, on social media about my health status, because I'm not physically coming into the hospital or into the clinic. And if that is going to be made, if Jubilee is providing this gateway through which I can access this healthcare, you're going to have a lot of my information. You'll have my name, my birth date, my what do they normally ask you for? All those things that they ask you for. But that data privacy and protection comes into play here. How do you safeguard all of this, where because you can't see me, you're going to need to have all the information about me in order to treat me? How will you protect me when it comes to my data and information?
So we do have, and I think the Data Protection Act actually sort of pushed us very many steps ahead in terms of data protection within the region and the continent. There's a regulatory framework that exists within the Data Protection Act, where any data processor, any data handler is required to maintain a certain level of encryption, minimization of data, and so forth, so that you only collect data that you require. And even when you do that, you have to pass it securely within your network, and you only limit access to whoever will be required to have that, to have access to that data. So cybersecurity, as it were, just protecting the data that you've already collected, again, is a big area of investment, especially for companies like Jubilee. And what we've done is, push encryption quite significantly and push cybersecurity and put investments within that space. The important bit is to understand that the communication and the channels for access are secure channels for access. It's not a random phone call.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll find that either you're using a teleconferencing tool that has secure encryption and secure networks, so that we ensure that, one, we've protected access in a safe space, but because medical data is especially sensitive, we also ensure that your medical data is secure. Yeah.
Okay. The packages that are offered, or things that you're then able to do whereby you can have access to healthcare the year through, how does it affect cost because of this innovation? We're looking at more expensive premiums, same premiums, are they lower? Because that's one big question that pops up for people when we're talking about healthcare. I have to be able to afford it.
There are exciting times ahead. I think tech is disrupting a lot of spaces, and insurance is one of them. Like I mentioned earlier, maintaining an operation in a hospital, the typical brick and mortar hospital, is very expensive. There are many costs for setup, there are many costs for maintaining staff, and even just the cost in time. Customers come in, they have to wait, you don't have a scheduling system. There's a lot of wastage within the traditional healthcare system. So tech offers a bit of solution in that. Of course, we are still many I think the world is not yet really ready for a tech-first health system. We are getting there. It will probably, it may be very obvious very soon. The same way, it was very difficult to imagine that you would have money sent to you via text message, right? So we will get there sometime. And the exciting thing about this is, like I mentioned, the access is amazing. Wherever you are, you can access it. It's very cost effective. It's very cost effective because healthcare is probably the last frontier market where we've not commoditized things. You don't know if I have a common cold, I don't know how much it's going to cost. Depending on who sees me, depending on where I go to be seen, you don't know how much it's going to cost. What tech does, it's going to standardize a bit of that and just push that access. And it's going to be, because the ultimate cost of care is less, definitely the insurance market will respond to that.
Okay, so let's break it down in this way. So if you were to walk into hospital today, even if you were covered, by Jubilee, for example, if you were to walk into hospital today and you have whatever issue presenting with, and you hand over your card or whatever it is, likelihood is that you do your triage, whatever, and it's going to come to maybe some 2,500 shillings just for them to look at you, literally. Before anybody has even touched you, then you go sit in front of the doctor and that goes kaching, maybe 3,000 shillings. These are the numbers that we're talking about today. 2,000 to 3,000 shillings just for consultation. You've not been treated. Nobody's drawn blood. Nothing has happened, right? They've taken your weight, height, etc. and you're already at 5,000 bob. Okay? Whether it's coming off your insurance or whether it's coming out of your pocket. So are we saying now, Doc, that with these innovations that we could see this money which folks are currently paying today reduce significantly? Because you mentioned already, if I'm going to do a telecall with the doctor, I probably spend up 1,500 shillings, and I'm going to do that from the comfort of wherever it is that I'm sitting. I do not have to travel. I do not have to connect. I don't have to do any of that. So 1,500 shillings, and I can talk to a doctor and I can tell my symptoms and they can tell me this is what it's likely to be, etc., right? Are we saying that this 5,000, 6,000, many times 8,000 shillings that you have spent before blood has been drawn, anything has happened, are we actually saying that this money can be significantly reduced with these innovations?
Absolutely. And I'll give a practical example. Right now, our teleconsultations at pharmacies, they cost $1. It's about 150 shillings or so. Whereas if you had gone to a traditional provider, it would cost you upwards of 2,000, 2,500 and so forth.
Not considering travel, not considering
just the inconvenience of, just sorting yourself out and the time that you take. It is, telemedicine is extremely cost effective. It's very efficient. The convenience in time, the convenience in place, that actually is one of the biggest selling points for telemedicine. And like I mentioned, exciting times ahead, because when you actually reduce the cost of care, what then happens is insurance companies responding to it, less premiums, insurance is more affordable, you have more penetration, you have more access to health financing, and you have a level of protection that allows you to seek care faster. So there are a lot of downstream effects that come from just having that convenience. But just let me come back to for example, what we're running. You pick up your phone, you call 0709 949 000. That's a Jubilee call center
number. City knows that number.
Yes, City knows it.
yes.
Absolutely, and it's human beings who pick it, right? I can confirm that. You pick that and then you say, okay, I'm your customer. I need to have access to telemedicine, right? So what then happens is, we try and thread that for you. We'll say we have X and X providers, or this pharmacy is next to you as a pharmacy teleconsult. The cost, and this is actual numbers that we've seen across the industry, is actually close to 60% less than what you would have paid if you'd have walked into a normal provider. So there's a lot of potential. It's just that adoption may take some time. But looking at all these things, it's obvious then that we should probably be pushing this a bit more.
Does it preclude folks who are not in urban, peri-urban areas? Because if we're saying that this kind of health, because look, a lot of folks who then are in rural areas, the element of travel and I'm just trying to imagine, the elements of travel is a big deal when it comes to going to seek medical care, right? Or to attend a medical facility. You mentioned, expectant mothers, for example. It's a big deal. We still have an issue where many, many women are giving birth on the way to wherever. And it's an issue, right? So, how would this play out in an area whereby travel is a problem? Even getting this medical care is an issue. How would that play out whereby we would now try to introduce something whereby you can speak on the phone to a medical provider? And I'm not talking about peri-urban or urban areas. I'm talking about rural Kenya.
First off, as a disclaimer, not everything can be treated remotely.
Sure.
But a majority of illnesses that we have on a day-to-day can be treated remotely. One of the biggest barriers to access to care is just physical access, the distance to the next available healthcare providers. And if you come from some rural areas in this country, you'll find it, the next facility is 20, 30, 40 kilometers away. The innovation then comes in at this point. Imagine a situation where you have a child, very remote village. You can't be able to get to the next healthcare provider, but you are able to call a doctor, and the doctor is telling you, by the way, if your child has passed loose stool 4 or 5 times, maybe it's time to be going to hospital, and maybe as you're going to hospital, do 1, 2, 3. It saves lives. And I mentioned earlier a project that was being done by the Gertrude Children's Hospital. There is actually publications from that actually show outcomes for children in rural areas improved significantly. Because then, instead of, in some of these places, it's difficult to get specialized care. It's difficult to even just get a normal GP to take care of the patient. But you're bringing that GP to the patient. Even if it's not direct intervention, there are interventions that can be done remotely that actually impact the outcome of the care safely and cost effectively.
This is interesting, because then what would it mean? For example, if these same areas that we're talking about, where we know that healthcare and access to it is an issue, what would it cost? Usually we say, okay, if you pay premiums per month or pay premiums per year, what would it cost for somebody who says, look, I don't have the 5,000 shillings a month, Are there packages that can be created for folks who then would be able to jump on if I pay a certain amount? You know how we have the Kadogo economy? If you can buy soap for 20 shillings, can I also access medical care for 20 shillings? And I'll explain that if I put away a little bit of something every day, can I then have access to this every month? So that at some point, if I do need to call somebody, the city always gets on me for this. It's the community health workers or community health promoters, right? That I can have access to one of them under the cover because I've paid 50 shillings or 100 shillings per week. Is there something like that takes those folks into consideration?
Yeah, so we, in addition to offering coverage over the spectrum of life, we also offer coverage over the spectrum of income. And it's interesting that you mentioned 20 shillings a day. We actually do have a cover, we call it cover Bora, which is about 6,200 shillings per annum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually 20 shillings a day.
Wow.
Literally, it's 20 shillings a day. So you took the words out of my mouth.
Nice.
And with that, you actually unlock the entire benefit of being a Jubilee Insurance customer.
Really?
Yes.
What's the entire benefit?
The entire benefit is, Cover Bora is predominantly an inpatient cover. So you'll have coverage for your inpatient admissions and so forth. But these communities that I had mentioned, this access to telemedicine, all these things, they are available, they're unlocked because, what we believe is, yes, there are different tests, there are different products that, any one of us could be able to go and buy.
Yeah.
But every individual customer who chooses and places their faith in Jubilee should be able to enjoy the same privilege as any other. And it doesn't matter how much the premium is. Yeah.
Right. So, and literally, you can actually pay the 20 shillings a day. Will Jubilee take 20 shillings a day, or does Jubilee want me to come and pay you the 6,200 shillings at once? And I may not have it, but is there a basket somewhere where I can be putting in the 20 shillings a day, and that would now allow me access to this healthcare that you speak of?
Yeah, I mean, we're building capacity around that. And one of the things that we actually try and encourage, because we have sister businesses, Jubilee Asset Management, for example. If someone may not be able to get the 6,200, they can put the 20 bob in a money market fund and can be able to use that as a premium. And we've seen a lot of creativity around, affordability of paying premiums. There are those that, you can be able to get insurance premium financing. There are those who opt to take insurance premium financing. And there are those that opt to, create a wallet and then use the interest thereof to pay the premium. Yeah.
Okay.
There is a population of individuals who we refer to as working within the Juakali sector, the informal sector. We are also told that they by far consist of the vast majority of people who actually work or do business in this country, just in terms of numbers. What we've just spoken of seems to meet their need. But then there's the question of, do they know about it? And what efforts have been made to ensure that cadre of citizen throughout the country actually gets this information, just this bit that we've spoken of?
I mean, even this conversation is informational, isn't it?
Oh, it most certainly is, but you're not here every day, are you?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. So what you try to do? That was just a minute. City is really holding me to
it. In fine form.
Yes.
Yeah. We have done a lot of promos, and one of the things that we have done as Jubilee is we have an initiative called Afya Mashinani, where we take Jubilee to the ground. We have partners like the Aga Khan hospitals, for example, where we organize medical camps, and we actually would go to the ground, and our agents would be able to speak to some of these products. And we've seen a lot of uptake. There are other ways that we're working towards ensuring that the sign-up journey is straightforward and easier. Right now, we will keep pushing the Afya Mashinani narrative. So we've done tours around the Rift Valley, Nakuru, Naivasha. We are planning to do some bit more within this year, and that creates a vibe to it. But then again, we're just trying to push promotional materials here and there. We have informational brochures, but importantly, I think trying to demystify it, the best is going to the ground and actually meeting the Juakali and actually saying, by the way, there's a product here that actually works for you. I think that, because insurance is actually a personal sell, it's a push product. No one wakes up to say they want to buy insurance.
Yeah.
So the agent actually having that relationship with the customer is what will actually push it up.
Is there room for the customer to give you feedback even as you tell them about the value of the product, so that you can actually understand what, yes, they've understood what you've told them, but then there's what they think they need and what they know they need?
Yeah. Yes. So Jubilee, we don't put out products that we think are right for Jubilee. We spend a lot of time understanding what the customer wants, understanding. We conduct a lot. We commission a lot of research on actually almost a quarterly basis. What does the customer actually want? Because otherwise, you'll create a product that you'll buy yourself. And the best way to actually see if then that product responds, customers vote with their feet. Are they buying the product? And for us, at least, we've seen that customers are taking up our products very well, which is encouraging to see that it's meeting a certain need. Nevertheless, because of continuous engagement, you get to understand market trends. Markets are dynamic. You can be able to then, pivot and create products that actually respond to that need. An example is, for example, the young Kenyans. Let me not say young Kenyans as if I'm very... we young Kenyans.
You've taken the question out of my mouth, because that is actually where I was heading.
Yes.
Please continue.
Who work in the digital space, who work in the gig economy. There are products that actually respond to that. The product that responds to a gig economy, because you know someone is going to get a windfall in 3 months, and then they may not get a windfall the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Can we be able to work through a situation, that a product that responds to that need? So at Jubilee, there's a product for everyone. I literally mean it when I say there's a product for everyone.
Consider starting a little earlier even.
Yeah.
Given the importance of insurance, and actually it is not possible to overstate the importance of insurance. As someone comes of age and they're understanding that at some point in their lives they're going to have to look after themselves, say secondary school, say the time when people are about to go to college, apart from just the product, just ensuring that information is there so that it is understood. Because health insurance insurance does a lot more than just cover you for health. It does very many other things.
Very true.
And a lot of the times, if I were to look at just the uptake, if you look as a percentile of the population in this country, what would you say it is right now?
We're about 2.3%.
Penetration.
2.3%.
And I look at that.
Oh,
now
wow.
look
Really
at
clear.
that. That penetration is poor.
So it's possible that folks don't take it because they're not aware. They don't know it.
Yeah, part of it is actually an information gap, and the regulator has really been trying to go to the ground and organize barazas, train Kenyans on the importance of insurance and so forth. There's a lot of information gap, and there's an almost mistrust of the system. The industry has come a long way from a situation where regulation was a bit lax to right now a very structured, a very regulated environment, which again pushes confidence for policyholders. The training on insurance and the knowledge of insurance is almost niche at the moment.
Yeah.
So we need to actually even go all the way to having curricula within high school, the common courses in university, just exposure to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's like a must course that when you enter, this is a course you will take. Just like we did English and math as a must course.
Absolutely.
I agree completely.
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell us again, even as we wind down with this, Doc, that where can we find this information currently before all of this trickling down happens? And like you said, it's exciting times ahead when that we'll be able to see probably these innovations front and center. People across countries, doesn't matter where you reside, rural, urban, peri-urban, you're able to get this information for yourself. Where can we find you?
I mean, the easier one is the city's favorite number, 0709949000.
Yes.
That's the easiest way.
Yeah.
If you have access to the website, you could go to the Jubilee Insurance website, www.jubileeinsurance.com. You would be able to find a page there, the health page, and there's a page that talks about us as Jubilee Insurance being always with you.
Sure.
Like we are creating solutions that meet your healthcare needs wherever you are, however you want it, wherever you want it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Dr. Musa Misiani has been our guest this hour, the COO, the Chief Operations Officer for Jubilee Health Insurance. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
These conversations must continue.
Thank you.
It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. .4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Below nin inte yenin there ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive that. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not because Adam messed up and he was told, no, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow,
I'm Edwin
thou shalt eat.
President William Ruto has condemned the assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump. Taking to social media, Ruto termed the incident not only shocking but also heinous. Ruto sent his sympathies to President Trump, his family, and the families of the victims of the attack. An investigation is ongoing into the assassination attempt on Trump, who appeared at the Republican National Convention on Monday. Trump was shot in the ear during a Saturday campaign rally in an attack that left the Republican presidential candidate's face streaked with blood and prompted his security agents to swarm him before he emerged and pumped his fist in the air, mouthing the words, "Fight, fight, fight." While many people would experience trauma or nightmares handling not just death but mutilated bodies in sacks, Kyalo Wambua would not. Wambua, who is 27 years old, has been leading retrieval bodies from Nairobi's Quarry dump site. He says he is driven by his love for the dead. He trained as a plant operator in 2018 after finishing his high school education, and since then he has been surviving on menial work as he hopes to secure employment as a plant operator. Unlike many people, Wambua says he has not attached stigma to handling dead bodies. Wambua claims to be sure of the presence of more bodies in the dump site, but he cannot reach them due to lack of proper gears. Council of Imams and Preachers of Kenya now want the government to take action against security officers who use excessive force against protesters. Speaking in Kakamega, led by Council Chair Sheikh Abdallah, they insist picketing is a constitutional right for every Kenyan and acts of killing and kidnapping protesters should not be permitted.
Serikali inafaa kusikiliza matakwa yanayotolewa na Wakenya. Maana yake wanaofanya maandamano ni Wakenya na wana matakwa yao. Kwa hivyo tunatoa mwito kwa serikali iweze kusikiza matakwa ya Wakenya. Waliotekwa na kuuawa, haki zao ziweze kupatikana. Hatua zishukuliwe. Wale mapolisi ambao walipatikana na makosa wametumia nguvu zaidi mpaka watu wakakufa, waweze kuchukuliwa na kupelekwa mahakamani ili haki iweze kutendeka.
The Imams have also said that they support a national dialogue as a way of restoring peace and stability in the country.
Sasa unajua Qur'ani tukufu inahimiza sana mazungumzo. Mwenyezi Mungu anasema kukiweko na vikundi viwili havielewani, vimekosana, basi jitahidini mlete suluhu kati ya wao wawili.
Amani ndio kila kitu. Amani ndio maendeleo. Amani ndio usalama, na amani ni jina la Mwenyezi Mungu. Yeye mwenyewe anaitwa As-Salam, yani amani. Kwa hivyo natoa mwito kwa wanasiasa wetu, mpe mtu nafasi atawale, muda wake kuisha, basi wewe simama pia, omba wananchi wa kuchague.
That's the news wire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can't run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Sasa baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu. Kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, a few minutes after 9 o'clock. What does traffic look like on the roads this morning? Let's take a look quick on the Thika Superhighway. Still coming in heavy as you get out towards that Pangani underpass. But then your service lanes are doing good justice this morning. But there's just this heavy traffic then between Garden City and then coming out towards that Allsops Junction. It looks like it's going to be busy for a while. Coming out of Westlands then towards Jerome, where there's also some traffic, and we're going to have to deal with that as we get towards that area and then out into the city. But all manageable as you come off of the off of Langata Road, heading out towards Uhuru Highway. There is some traffic there, that also for a while. Landis Road, chock-a-block, bumper to bumper, as you then touch on Kamkunji at the roundabout. Everything else seems to be flowing along, not a problem on the Eastern Bypass as you get then towards North Airport Road. We're going to see a smidgen of traffic as you come in then from the Southern Bypass and coming on from Mombasa Road and touching on the Southern Bypass. That is what it looks like will be the messiest of it all. Apart from that, I think we'll be all right. We're going to keep an eye on things and we'll talk as we keep it moving this morning. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Wherever you're tuned in across the country and indeed across the world, Kenya's biggest conversation gets into its final hour this morning. And as we look at yet another technology conversation and an innovation conversation, but we're going towards education at this point and seeing how all of this unfolds. And thank you for joining us. Our live stream still up on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, and on TikTok as we continue into that this morning. Our guest for this hour already here, and we've talked with Credo before.
Yes, we have.
We have had conversations about education and where it can evolve in different parts. Manish Sardana is the CEO and founder of Cradle Kenya, and we're now going to be looking at how Cradle is using technology to fix a broken study abroad industry. Things are broken, they need fixing. You're going to tell us how this is all going to come together.
Yep.
But before you do that, CT has a proverb from Cabo Verde.
Yes. This is an island country in the west of Africa. It's interesting. Island country in the west of Africa.
In the ocean.
In the Atlantic Ocean. Amazing, isn't it?
Indeed.
So the Atlantic Ocean is in West Africa.
Exactly. We have the Atlantic Ocean. Take that to the bank.
Okay. The proverb, a hot needle burns the thread.
So now that he said that, you can tell us what that means, what it means to you, and how you, Manish, would interpret that.
It's interesting because we've used this proverb in India, where I grew up as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, originally also, this is actually a Jamaican proverb.
This needle and thread one
of this is just a Jamaica, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And we use it actually quite often because life is very, very busy and very fast where I grew up from. And we do things very, very fast. And sometimes we don't think through things.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of comes to mean that when you do something in haste, it can actually lead to bad outcomes.
Yeah.
That's what it actually means.
Interesting.
It's a very good interpretation.
Very, very good interpretation. When you do something in haste, it can actually lead to bad outcomes.
Yes, even if your intentions were good to begin with,
yeah,
the outcomes may not what you then realize.
Where it burns the thread, the hot needle burns the thread.
Hot needle burns the thread. Voila. In the previous hour, we had a conversation about innovations in healthcare and what it means to deliver healthcare along those lines.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at, okay, there's a system that's broke. How are we going to fix it? Not broke like no money, but broken. Let me just speak properly. So first of all, just reintroduce us to Cradle and what Cradle does and, how it operates.
Yeah, so Cradle is essentially a technology company that is trying to use technology to fundamentally transform the way students today search and they get matched to and apply to courses and universities across the world. Allow me to give you some context. Yeah. I come from an education background. I was in an education tech startup in India. I was also the youngest published author of an economic school textbook in India. So I've been pretty close to education. I've been teaching students quite a while. And one of the problems that we realize, and it is also a problem that I went through, in my life, is, when you are graduating out of high school, how do you pick up a university that you want to? How do you pick up a course? Forget even the university. How do you decide what you're going to study? What did you study? Let's start with you. What did you study in your college, university?
So I did a double degree in international relations and journalism.
Good for you. It's one of the 20% of the people in the world who end up in careers which have something to do with what they studied in college. 80% students eventually end up in careers which have nothing to do with what they've studied in college. And when we went to kind of high schools in Kenya also, this was something that we realized that most students didn't know what they're going to be studying in the university. And the reason was that a lot of the decision making when it comes to careers and comes to courses is very much driven by parental biases, societal biases, peer pressure, what the school counselor is telling you. So even if we've been to kind of, I think, 100 plus high schools across the length and breadth of this country. I have personally done career talks with thousands of students myself, all the way from Nyeri to Mombasa to Nairobi. And one thing we realized was that students weren't sure of what they wanted to study. And most of the conversations when it comes to education came to the same old medicine, engineering, the same science subject. Like in KCSE curriculum, for example, science is mandatory.
Yep.
No matter what you want to study eventually in your future. And the question that we ask ourselves is, if someone is asking you, what should I study? How do you answer that question? Where is the starting point? And for most people, the starting point becomes, what are your grades? What are you good at? Or what do your parents do? But these are not the fundamental determinants of what, like, for example, there are students who are good at all subjects, right? So what do you study? How do you decide that? So today, a lot of that decision is based on kind of fundamental biases, whatever you hear around you. And in most cases, what your parents are telling you to study. So we came up with a psychometric assessment that uses technology to assess your personality, your value system, your aptitudes, your interests, your behaviors, every single thing via an online assessment. It is 180 questions long. And that assessment helps you figure out who you are and uses that as a starting point for you to figure out what are the kind of ideal career options for you. And basis that, then you decide, for me to reach that career option, what are the courses I want to study today in the university. So this is the first use of technology that we are creating, where students are using technology, and we have thousands of students in Kenya who use our technology, which is what we call a career match assessment, to figure out what course do I want to study in the university. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is that once you figure out I want to study a certain course, how do you decide what's the right university for me? So if you look at the Kenyan education system, we have a body called CUPS that essentially matches you, bases your grades into whatever university seats are available, right?
Yep.
And you hear thousands of cases of students who end up in courses which they don't want to pursue, they want to study. And sometimes you might end up in a university that might not be your first choice. Then there's another market of students who are actually traveling to study abroad. Now, how do you decide what university you want to study? Like, there are thousands of universities available across the world. How do you decide what university you want to study to? So typically the behavior is that I'll probably go on Google and I search for best universities in the UK or Canada, etc. And then you'll get like a information overload, and then you don't know how to go around it. So you end up going to what is called a study abroad agent. Now think of a study abroad agent like a travel agent. And before we go to study abroad industry, let's just look at how the travel industry worked, right? So if you had to travel to Nigeria from here, you typically go to a travel agent and you say, look, I want to travel to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Which hotel can I stay? And he'll email you or WhatsApp you 2 or 3 hotel options, and then you choose between them, right? But today, what do? We go to booking.com, we go to expedia.com, and then we say, I want to travel to Lagos. And it gives you thousands of options with users' ratings and reviews, with all of their prices and discounts mentioned, and you can complete the process seamlessly online. So what happened in travel industry is that with this information, symmetry which was created, users then had the power to be able to decide on their own without using an agent, which hotel do I want to stay in, which is the best fit hotel for me, and then you did the entire booking online. As a result of it, the travel industry got completely disrupted. So 67 to 70% of all global travel today is completely done online without using a travel agent. I remember in my times, we used to even use a travel agent to book a flight. I know about, my times were very old times. So today the study abroad agent is very much sitting in the middle, deciding the right university for you. But who is the study abroad agent? What is the profile of the study abroad agent? What is the background of the study abroad agent? Is he an educationalist? Is he an academician? No. He is a regular business guy who came into this industry because there's good amount of money to be made. They work with a bunch of universities. In fact, more than 90% of all study abroad agents in our work have probably less than 10 universities that they work with. So what he does is that when you go to him and say, I want to study this course, he has a list of universities, and out of that list of universities, he'll email you, here are the 3 universities you can apply to. And then the student chooses from those 3 or 4 options, just exactly the way it happened in the travel industry, right? Just keep drawing those parallels. The reason today that you need a study abroad agent is because information was not easily accessible in one place. The process of searching for universities was very difficult because you just have to go to Google and then hope you get the best results there. The process of matching to the right university, there's no technology available today. What is the best fit, best match university for me as a person who I am? What university will appeal to me the most? Where is the university where my chances of success are going to be maximized? It's not clear. And if you have to apply to the university, you are told that it is so difficult to apply to a university, you might not get an offer letter, you might not get a scholarship. So then you need an agent. So agent makes you believe that you cannot do this without my support. And so that's number one problem. The second problem is that the study abroad agent is neither qualified or nor incentivized in the right way to get you the best options.
Incentivized by whom?
By the universities.
Okay.
So, for example, we make a commission just like every other agent on the first year tuition fees. So an agent will make typically a 10 to 15% commission on the first year university fee when the student enrolls to the university. So it is in the interest of the agent to push you in the most expensive university possible, because that's where he maximizes the commission for himself. Number 2, most universities, almost every university offers scholarships and discounts to students, especially for international students. It is not in the interest of the agent to ever even tell you about scholarship and discount, because every time an agent will offer you a scholarship, he's going to make less money. As a result of it, you end up getting into universities at much more expensive cost than you would have otherwise. Number 2, you might miss out on a ton of universities that could have been great for you that no one told you about even existed. And then number 3 is that you get matched to a university which might not be in your best interest. So we said that today the power center of this entire decision-making process, and imagine this decision-making process is so important because based on this decision, someone's entire future and career is going to depend. This and you know, the cost of international education is very expensive. You're talking about $50,000, $100,000, right? This entire investment is being made through one counselor sitting in an agent who's probably about 1 or 2 years of experience in this industry and telling you what's best for you. What we are trying to do is use technology to change the center of power from the agent and giving it to the student, saying this platform is all you need in the most transparent way to make these decisions on your own, that you don't need an agent anymore. So agent is going to try and convince you that you can't do this on your own. It is too complex. You know, the international education is a very high anxiety decision. Your child is going away for the first time abroad. You don't know what's going to happen to him. Is he going to be in the right university? Is he going to pursue the right course? Okay, so you would say, I need someone to help me in that process because I am too scared to make a decision on my own. So Cradle has built a technology platform that partners with hundreds of universities. Today we have more than 500 universities across 40 different countries in the world, where you can see all of their courses, you can see the university rankings, you can see their fee structures, you can see every single scholarship offered by a university. In fact, we have an entire section on our website dedicated to scholarships and discounts. So the information today is transparent. The information is aggregated in a very simple way, so that when you need to figure out, I want to study business studies or a computer science or journalism, all the courses are in one place. So search, we made this process super simple. Number two, we've launched a really interesting tool called the University Matchmaker. You guys should try it out. The University Matchmaker can try to understand you as an individual, ask you a bunch of questions, and then matches to you to the best fit universities. So you don't need an agent to tell you what's the best university for you. The tool will tell you in a much better way. And number three, through a seamless application process online, you'll be able to apply to multiple universities from the comfort of your home. You don't need to go to an agent.
Okay.
So we are trying to fundamentally disintermediate an industry which has been fundamentally for a long time been controlled by these study abroad agents. In fact, this is the only industry in the world which has not been disintermediated, where the intermediary is still critical to the success of the outcomes of the customers. If you look at travel, disintermediated. Commerce, e-commerce, disintermediated. Every industry in the world has been disintermediated. This is the only industry left in the world where there has been zero innovation, where still is the traditional agent on the street that people go to for help. And today we are telling people that you don't need an agent. You have this technology on your mobile phone where you can use this to search, get matched to, and apply to universities across the world on your own.
So where does Cradle come into this? Right here, you're saying go to Cradle.
It's building that technology, it's building that platform. So we are a technology company. Our idea is that the power dynamics of this entire industry is in the hands of a study abroad agent. So we are trying to take that power away and give it in the hand of the student. So our motto is own your future. We're saying your future is your own. You don't need to have an agent own your future for you or a counselor own that future for you. You get to own your future because today you have the technology, the information, the resources to be able to do everything on your own. Of course, we have a team of counselors to help you in the process. We have around 50 counselors in 5 countries, 5 offices that we operate in to help you through the process. So it's not just you left completely on your own.
Yeah.
So we have qualified counselors, but our counselors use technology to give you a very well-informed options that an agent can't give you ever.
Okay. So then what does that mean? Here I am, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, applying to university, looking for options. I present myself to this technology. What happens?
Okay, so let's just take a use case. Let's say you want to do a master's in journalism. So you go to the platform. You say, I want to study journalism and I want to do a postgraduate course. Click. Then it'll ask you a bunch of questions. For example, do you want to study online or do you want to study on campus? So maybe you have a successful career here and you don't want to go abroad to study, you want to pursue a master's online. So that's an option available to you. Then you say, I want to study on campus. Then you say, okay, so now we have to decide which of the 41 countries would you want to go to study. So it'll ask you a bunch of questions. For example, do you want to study in a country where you want post-study work opportunities? For example, if you were to pursue your master's in journalism in the US, you won't get that opportunity. But if you were to pursue that course in, let's say, Ireland or UK or Canada or Australia, you'll have a certain period from 2 to 3 years where you can actually work in that country as a journalist after you finish your studies, because the countries offer you that, the government offers you that window.
Yeah.
So we'll ask you a bunch of questions. Then we narrow down the right countries for you to study, the right destinations for you to study. After that, we'll ask you your budget and a bunch of other questions, and a system will generate an entire list of universities for you to do your master's in journalism across multiple countries, across multiple universities. Then you can now read about this course. What are you actually going to be taught in that course? Yeah, is that course in tune with the times, or is it an outdated course? You can see the fees, you can see the scholarships. You can see the ratings, the rankings of universities. You can see videos of the university, you can see pictures. You want to talk to the university, we'll enable that conversation with you, for you. And then from there you shortlist, and then you use our system to apply for the university online. And in that process, if you need the help of our counselors are always going to be. So for every student, we'll have a counselor assigned as a relationship manager, whose job is not to tell you what to do and what to study and where to study. His job is to facilitate that process, that discovery process, that comparison process that you will do on your own, but we'll facilitate that process because we don't believe in telling people what to do. Our idea is to kind of give you the power to do this yourself.
Sure. Okay. So you mentioned that it takes into consideration what career options for the future could be, so that by the time you're looking at this particular university, you know, okay, well, these are the courses they offer. This is what I could actually major in. And then these are the possible outcomes when it comes to a career in the future, whether you're going to work for yourself or work for somebody. Does it take into consideration also country-specific industries? Like, say, if you
want to build
Kenya,
a career in certain industry, then what is the right country for you?
Yeah, or if you live in Kenya and you're going to go to university in the UK, whatever, and if you decide to come to Kenya, does it come back to Kenya after your study? Does it take that into consideration and say this is what the ecosystem would look like, and then that you could make a decision based on that?
Yeah. Very, very good question. So we do ask students this question that do you want to study abroad and come back to Kenya, or do you want to study abroad and build a career for yourself there? So this is one of the questions or prompts in part of the process. So we do ask that. There is a lot of proprietary information that we are building today, which is industry-specific information. So for example, what is the best country to build a career in automobiles? If you want to be in the automobile industry, if you want to be in the aviation industry, if you want to be in the journalism industry, what is the best country for you to pursue a career? So we are building a lot of the proprietary data as well. Today, that data is not part of the technology platform, but it is sitting with us, with our counselors. So, for example, when someone told us that they want to do a business course, but they eventually want to work in the automobile industry because they're passionate about it, we said the answer is very simple. You should be studying in Germany, because that's a hub. So we do layer on that career-specific information on top of the information that I talked about earlier as part of the decision-making process.
Okay, we're going to take a break and come back and continue looking at this and then talk about some of the other innovations that Cradle is making when it comes to then making a selection in terms of a university and university education. But just quickly before we go to that break, Minash, when we say that students may come to the platform and are completely green, have no idea even what they want to study, because you mentioned CUSPs, right?
Yeah.
And usually that's what a lot of people come to this platform and they're not really sure. Okay, I got an A- in my, high school exam.
Yeah.
Which is what leads me to then be able to study a certain course in university.
Yeah.
So now you're dealing with absolutely green who have no idea. How are they taken care of?
Yeah. So obviously students we have a hotline number on our website. People can call us and our counselors can talk to them. I think what I said earlier, and you're right that most students, the fundamental problem is that don't even know what to study. Forget about which university to go to and which country to go to. And that's where we have our career match assessment. So we talk to the students, we understand their challenge, and then we ask them to take the assessment. Once they take the assessment, they get a report. Then they come back to us with the report. Then we use the report to assess who they are as an individual and then recommend the right career paths and courses for them.
All right, let's take a break at this point and take a look at weather and traffic, and we'll come back as we continue the education conversation and what innovation is doing to seal the loops or, connect the dots in a broken industry. We'll come back. It's 9:30 on the nose.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
been low nin dhinte iyo nin dheer ayuu markhaati ka dhigtaa. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, "No, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat."
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, we'll see highs of 22 and lows of 13. 13 will also be the low in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 15. 18 and cloudy, going to highs of 22 in Nakuru, and into Eldoret at 15. It's sunny with highs of 21 and lows of 13. We're looking at a cloudy Mombasa at 27 with highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in a mostly sunny Malindi at 27. It's 24 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 27 in a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 21. Into Kampala, it's cloudy at 21 with highs of 28, while into Dar es Salaam at 24, sunny going to highs of 31. It's 14 degrees, slightly warmer in Johannesburg, going to highs of 22, and we'll see highs of 29 in a partly sunny Mogadishu. It's 17 and cloudy in Addis Ababa with highs of 20, while into Lagos, cloudy at 25 with highs of 31 and highs of 29 in a sunny Kinshasa. Let's take a look into Beijing, where at 36, Wednesday afternoon is sunny, and that'll be the high for today, while Paris at 16 is sunny, and London at 15 is sunny as well. It's partly cloudy at 27 in New York. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 34 and lows of 24.
Chilled Spice.
Okay, so we're looking at still some traffic left on Jogo Road as you get out towards Landis. That's probably the worst of it that we'll see for now. But for some reason, it's still ticking on the Thika Superhighway. Heavy traffic coming in from beyond the Allsops Junction. I think we're past with traffic from Githurai, but then we're just dealing with the last of it as we get out towards the Pangani Tunnel. All right, beyond that, still that issue on Chiromo as you get towards the junction. Probably all the vehicles that are coming in slowing down because of that crook in the road. Okay, and also on Limuru Road, just the last of the traffic happening as you come into the city. Ngong Road is going to be busy for a while as you come through towards Community, and whatever traffic was coming on to Rilo Dingaway, that has subsided. Through the morning, talk to us, SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, our conversation continues, and we're looking at innovation in technology when it comes to education, and a system which, is broken but can actually be fixed. The CEO and founder of Credo Kenya, Manish Sardana, is our guest this hour. And as we continue to look at some of these things, we also have older students who want to get into university, older that maybe they've started a career already and they want to now, pursue their education. Maybe they didn't have an opportunity to do so. Manish, how does Cradle, cater for them?
Yeah, same process. I mean, if I look at East Africa, more than 50% of our students today are working professionals. Or students who are just finishing their undergrad and they want to study postgrad abroad. And we also have a lot of professionals who've never done their undergrad to start with. They started working right after high school and now want to do their undergrad. In Nigeria, as you may imagine, 90% of our students are all students who are working professionals looking to kind of study abroad. So the question is same for them. How do I decide what's the right university for me? Where do I get? So the questions that these guys are concerned about are slightly different from the undergrad students. So a lot of them are looking for countries to study where there's a path to PR. Yeah. Immigration is a very large part of their decision-making process. A lot of them are also looking for countries where they can actually earn while they're studying. Yeah, so that's a very large part of the process as well. And they're also looking at post-study work opportunities. So their kind of criteria and decision-making criteria has slightly different factors. And then our platform allows you to select all of your conditions that you want to in terms of your study abroad destinations, and it tells you all those. And of course, we help them in exactly the same process the way we help undergrad students. So the process is exactly the same, just that the kind of things they're looking for are slightly different sometimes.
Do you offer the information in terms of, because, when you talk about education, especially abroad, depending on where you live on the globe, the cost of this education is a big factor for decision making when it comes to which university you will go to.
Absolutely. And we understand that.
Yeah. So do you give information on scholarships, on financial aid that's available?
Absolutely. I mean, I can proudly say that we are the only transparent platform on the continent today, where every single course that you have to study has a detailed fee structures mentioned on the platform, where every single scholarship offered by the 500 universities that we work with are mentioned on the platform. In fact, we have an entire section on scholarships. We click on scholarships and see every university across every single country that we work with and what's the scholarship they're offering. So yeah, it's completely transparent. I mean, as I said, I think I really believe that, information is power. And today, the agents are withholding that information from you see, it's not like an agent cannot build a platform and make that information accessible. It's not that. They can't do it. I mean, we have agents who've been in the market for 20 years, 30 years, and they're powerful and they're big and they're large, and they can do that. The reason they don't want to do that is because if they make that information easily accessible, they fear that their existence is going to be in question. In fact, we have some school counselors telling us that, when we go to the platform to them, they say that, are you going to take away my job? And there's that fear of kind of losing existence.
Is that fear justifiable?
No, not at all. I mean, we are in an industry. We are using, it's like thinking that if Booking.com made all the information easily accessible to people to buy, to book hotels, then travel agents will lose their jobs. Yes, so travel agents will lose the job. But, there is I'm an economics student, so one of the things that we learned is a very interesting term called creative destruction. Creative destruction means that you have to innovate to make yourself redundant. Because if you don't do that yourself, someone else is going to make you redundant.
Right.
Technology is going to make traditional industry redundant for sure. So the only option that one has is to build that technology yourself to stay ahead of the curve. Otherwise, yes, the fear is true.
The fear is real.
Yeah, the fear is real. I mean, that's what I told you, right? Look at the travel industry. 67% of travel agents across the world have died out. I mean, the biggest travel agent company in the world was which one? Cox and Kings. Closed down. Thomas Cook closed down.
Which means they were not able to keep up with the times. They were not able to innovate.
They were not. And they were fearing technology. They said, okay, the psychological barrier was that I cannot make decisions the way I want to. I cannot manipulate customers the way I do today if everything was like customers can choose. So, for example, today on our platform, someone wants to study abroad, can pick a university that is going to offer a course for $2,000 in the entire year. Education study abroad is actually, a lot of people think is expensive. It is not.
So what makes it so expensive then?
It is not. That's what I'm telling you. It's not. There are some traditional universities which are expensive, and there are some very cheap universities abroad. For example, we work with universities that are offering courses at half the cost of what you can study locally in Kenya. But now, why do the agent doesn't want to do that? Because he's going to make a lot less commission on that. So they don't want to talk about those universities. They don't want to even promote those universities. And our fundamental philosophy is that if you do what's in the best interest of the student, you are going to win in the long run. We will not make as much money as today, but that is just fine. In the long run, we are going to win. So we are the fastest growing study abroad business on the continent today.
What's the output like in terms of students who have gone through the cradle system and have graduated or are currently in school? What's happening with them?
Yeah, so I mean, this is like the best part of this entire business, right? Like when you see student outcomes. So we have kind of two levels of outcomes that we look at. Number one is that students who did not know what they want to study and came to us, anxious and confused, today took our assessment and figured out what's the right course for them to study. So the outcome that we measure today is that, they feel confident, they're enjoying their studies because they're into a course where they are feeling very, very good about. The second outcome is what happens to students who have graduated out of the university. It is too early for us to measure that because we're just 2 years old in the industry. A lot of our students have not graduated. But our first student actually graduated in Nigeria, in Canada, is now successfully pursuing a job in a financial services industry in Canada today. But we'll know more. But what we know is that our students, wherever they are in the world, they are sending us flowers, they're sending us gifts, and they're sending us their videos, and they're actually making videos of the campus. They're doing campus tours and sending us those videos saying how excited they are right now and what they're doing. Because the point is that we are telling the student that, this is your decision, this is your journey, this is your path. You need to make your own decision in terms of what career you want to pursue and what university you want to study. Our job is to enable that process for you.
Yeah.
So that you can think through this entire process very clearly. The challenge today is that the study abroad agent is making a decision for you. So you never kind of get to own your own decision. Yeah.
So here you actually do then own it from start to finish.
Absolutely.
And then you can ensure that the outcomes are essentially based on you. Cradle is a channel through what? A channel through which all of this can actually then be done.
100%.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, we're not just a pure technology company. We have, as I said earlier, we have a team of 50 counselors, but these 50 counselors are not authorized to tell you what to study.
Okay.
Their job is to use our platform to enable that conversation with the student to say, okay, let's sit on our platform. Let me ask you a bunch of questions. Let's go through this process together. And then we will find the answers together in this process. So we don't just let you travel this journey alone. I mean, we will walk the journey with you. Our counselors will walk the journey. But there is no incentivized. So let me tell you how a study industry works. So if you go to a study abroad agent, they will have teams. So there's a UK team, there's a Europe team, there's a US team, there's a Canada team, so on and so forth. So they have specialists available for every single destination. So you walk into the office, and let's say the first person you meet is like, I want to study abroad, not really sure of where I want to study, what university I want to go to, and you end up meeting the UK team, right? The UK team counselor is incentivized to only tell you to study in the UK because that's how he makes his commission. Even though the best country for you might be somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Canada and so on and so forth, his incentive is very much tied to selling Europe and selling universities in Europe. So he's going to do everything he can to push you into Europe. To UK. Our teams are not organized in terms of study destination. So everyone is authorized to work in every study destination possible. Because we have this very strong belief on learner centricity. So we have this motto in the company where all our decisions are made on only one principle: do what's in the best interest of the student. When one of my team members would come to me and say, okay, what should I do in this situation? I said, do what's in the best interest of the student. So that has made a decision-making process in our company super simple. If the best interest of a student is to study a course which is 1/5 the cost of studying in the UK, let's do that.
Okay. But Cradle still does earn money in terms of
yes,
commissions.
we do earn money. When
this student has
the student enrolls to university, we make money. Most often than not, we make a lot less money than a traditional agent will make because we offer scholarships. So by the virtue of that, we make a lot less income relative to an agent will make. But that is just fine. Or we might expose universities to students which are going to cost half what expensive universities are going to cost. And because students can come to the platform, compare the fees and choose very low cost options, we do also might end up making less money, and that is just fine with us.
But there's an interesting thing here. You see, excuse me, because of your structure, your base is broader.
Base is broader, it's completely transparent, the student is empowered, he's the center of the process.
Yes.
It's all about the student.
And if the base is broader, it means the clientele is also greater.
Yeah, 100%.
And you see, apart from just the traditional way of advertising or letting people know, when you have a broad base, you have the advantage of word of mouth.
100%.
Because somebody who has gone through the process and has successfully done so will be your ambassador, because that is the person who will now be the person who people look to and say, well, so-and-so did this and it actually worked. So-and-so's child went here. Now, I want to ask a question. Whenever people talk of studying abroad, they think Europe, they think America, they think Canada. I'd like to move away from those countries.
Yeah.
Which other countries which are not in that region do you people also work with?
Yeah. So, India, for example, India is a really interesting study destination. The cost of studying in India can be as low as $1,500 for the entire year, which is 1/3 the cost of studying locally in this country.
$1,500 for a year.
$1,500 for the entire year, because the government of India offers a lot of scholarships, especially for African students. We work with Indian universities, for example. Did you know that every year around 25,000 students leave Africa to study in India?
I know there are many.
There are many that in my... So I used to previously work in Standard Group, which is a large advertising group here.
Yeah.
And I was the MD for Africa. And in my experience, I came through a lot of my clients in different industries who studied in India, actually. So India is a very interesting study destination. Of course, Australia is another. So Asia Pacific region, there are a lot of very good universities available. today, Europe is very broad, right? I mean, you have the East Europe, you have the West Europe, you have the Central Europe. So we have universities across, So today we have universities in every single continent on the planet to work with. But yes, you're right that people do come up with some biases in terms of, their understanding of like UK. So like if you look at Kenya, it's traditionally a UK market. Also, you see there is some level of division in terms of ethnicity. So like if you look at Kenyan nations, they typically prefer, we've seen they typically prefer UK. Because a lot of their parents have gone to the UK and come back from UK. So their starting bias is towards UK. And then, of course, one of our jobs is to kind of open up that bias and remove that bias and show them other options. If you see, there are certain communities who prefer Canada, for example. I mean, if you look at Nigeria, traditionally been a very UK, focused market, but now it is Canada. Now it is opening up to Ireland. So yeah, so it is growing.
And also
that diversity is growing.
Yes. You see, it also comes in against this backdrop of a declining population in many of those Western countries.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic to talk about.
Yes, so that the issue of studying doesn't begin and end there.
Yeah.
There's the issue of the opportunity
of work opportunities.
And work.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You have some countries in Europe for the first time they are facing now declining birth rates for the first time in the history, which their population is degrowing. As you know, the reasons are many. A lot of people don't wish to get married. They wish to travel across the world. They don't have kids. So you have a growing kind of aging population and a declining youth population. And today these countries are looking for skilled workers. And they don't have skilled workers in their own continents. For example, there's a severe shortage of nurses in the UK. The NHS is completely broken in the UK. We all know that. There's a severe shortage of nurses. Today there's 40 to 60,000 shortage of nurses just between UK and a few European countries. The starting salaries for a nurse in the UK is today $4,500. It's guaranteed on day one by the government. $4,500 per month. Now they are saying, I need nurses. Now I don't have nurses. So we have programs where if you are practicing nurse in Kenya, you can do a conversion program. A conversion program is a very short-term program for you to become a professional, accredited nurse, for you to practice nursing in that country. And then you start your work. So we also, I think we talked to you about it, that we also look at, work opportunities as a starting point for what is the kind of career you want to build. For example, if you want to practice law, you have to go to countries which have Commonwealth law, because then you can't otherwise come back and practice in Kenya, for example. So the biggest driver today of education, especially if you look at West Africa, Nigeria, is not just education, it's the work opportunity
that present later.
100%. And that's why they look at countries which offer post-study work permits, countries where you can take your even spouse and your family along with you when you're studying there, so you can build a life for you there, sir.
So what would it look like, do you think, if you were to take and look into your crystal ball and say, what would this look like futurely, whereby we have, it's the absolute opposite on this end of the pond, isn't it? Where we have a bulging population, youth population, who are looking for these skills, who are looking for these opportunities, and on this side you have empty baskets or empty nests.
Absolutely.
Really, what would it look like? I could take a guess, but from your point of view, where you're in this, what would you see?
And I think we're seeing a lot of data points that show us where this path is going to, right? There's going to be so there are two things. Universities, number one, let's start from universities first before we go to the job market. Universities are looking for student diversity. Universities have rankings, and one of the very big determinant of ranking is diversity, student diversity. Now traditionally a lot of the international student population was India and China. They filled all the international students quota. Now, because of that, the diversity numbers are going down because it's not diverse. Now, you go to University of Sydney, for example, in the math program, you only see Chinese. There's certain universities in Canada, we'll only see Indians there. So they want African students, number one, because they want diversity. Now, to encourage African students to come here to those universities, they're giving them big discounts and scholarships. They're saying, we want you to come here. That's number one. So from a university perspective, there's a massive drive to get students from Africa.
Why is diversity important for them?
Because they get rankings. The universities have ranking points. Universities are ranked globally. And a very big determinant of that ranking, apart from, for example, number of research papers published, is student diversity. And right now they're saying all of my students, they all look like Indians and Chinese. So when students are coming, they're not even feeling they're in an international environment, because Indians are saying, when I go to study in Australia or Canada, I feel like I'm studying in India, because all you have is Indians everywhere. So, but more importantly, for university ranking, so for the university rankings, they need diversity points, and they want African students. That's number one. The second thing is the work opportunities. There are so many work opportunities as we discussed earlier, like in nursing, for example, in engineering, for example, in medicine, for example. They need doctors, they need qualified nurses, they need qualified lawyers, they need qualified, very interestingly, I figured out a college in Canada where they are teaching plumbing and welding as a course. And I was like, plumbing and welding? Like, why would someone spend all this money to come to Canada to learn plumbing and welding? And then they showed me the salary data. You know what is the starting salary of a plumber who also, or a welder or a carpenter who comes out of that course?
Please don't depress me. Okay, okay.
This I want to hear, please.
$66,000 per year guaranteed.
I beg your pardon?
$66,000 per year. That's around, $5,500 per month. Salary if you were to become a welder, or, like these, this is very interesting. Actually, I want to make this point about this. These are called vocational industries, yeah?
Yes.
Skill-based vocational industries. We have a parallel in Kenya we call TVETs.
Yes.
So, in a lot of kind of colonized markets, like India also included, vocational education was always looked down upon as a secondary information. So, if you don't make it to the university in a liberal arts program, let's say Bachelor's of Arts, Bachelor's of Commerce, then you end up in a vocational course.
Yes.
But if you look at other countries, vocational education is paid a premium over liberal arts education. Because they're saying, I don't need another Bachelor's of Commerce, or another BBA student. What I need plumbers, I need welders, I need electricians.
Case in point.
I need you to be very sure of what you're saying, because...
But he's right, because if you want, let's go to Europe.
Manish.
Switzerland.
$5,500 is almost 700,000 shillings a month.
Yeah. We have this data. We have it on email from the universities. There is, for listeners, you guys can look at the NOC list in Canada. It's called the NOC list, where you can see all the occupations where they have opportunities in terms of number of people they want and the salaries being offered there. I mean, it's all published, all the data. And this is the power. I told you guys in the beginning, right? Information is power. Information is power. Information is power. This information today is not accessible to people. That information is being hidden from people. Our job is to make that information freely accessible and available so people can make more informed decisions. So that if you want to go into a vocational industry, you just don't do a BBA thinking I'm going to make more money doing that. You see, medicine, let me tell you an example of medicine. Most people here, they want their kids to become doctors for some reason. We have kids coming to us crying, saying, can you please talk to my parents? I don't want to become a doctor. I'm really bad at biology, chemistry. I don't like that field. I don't want to be a doctor, but my parents are pushing me to be a doctor.
That's an issue, isn't it?
Medicine is a huge thing.
Because we're going to go back. Sorry, I just want to interject at that point and ask you a question that would piggyback on what you're saying. Because CUSPs have told us the same thing. That you have a lot of students who are into the placement, but a year into the study course, they're dropping out.
Medicine has the highest dropout rate of any course in the world. Generally speaking, higher education has a 40% dropout rate. I mean, I dropped out in my master's, I was studying economics as an example. And that is because people get placed into kind of courses which are not fit for them. So now, let's talk about medicine. People are saying, I want to be a doctor. Now, what is the number of unemployed doctors in Kenya today? Do you know that? 5,000 unemployed doctors in Kenya. And medicine is one of the hardest courses to study. It's the most expensive course to study, clearly, and it's the longest course to study. So you endure all of that pain, all of that years of suffering, and those dropouts, and that cost to become a doctor, yet doctor has a extremely high. You're better off becoming a nurse than becoming a doctor, to be honest, in terms of just getting a job, especially abroad,
Do you think there will be we're looking at this, and I think it's fantastic news because there are options for people. I'm still stuck on the 700,000 shillings a month plumber job. You guys could find me with a wrench, CT, just be careful. Anyway, we're looking at a situation whereby when we are encouraging folks essentially to apply to these universities abroad and then get into the job market, do we look at the issues of brain drain on this side, or is that not a problem?
Yeah. No, I think I agree with you. I mean, I come from India. I'm a brain drain example from India. I immigrated out of India, and I'm like, in India, I will consider a brain drain example, right? I think there is. We know that we are living in a global world where the countries are connected. We are living in a borderless world. People are going to migrate one way or the other. Eventually, people are going to seek what's in their personal best interest in terms of securing the best future for themselves and their family. Mm-hmm. So you cannot stop that from happening, right? I mean, it is going to happen. It is for the country to create opportunities for them to kind of stay there and then build. Like, if you can give opportunities, as I said, to kind of vocational education courses where people can become successful carpenters here and build a kind of living and life that they would want to build for their family without having to travel abroad, they will not. Mm-hmm. But it is a natural consequence of living in a global world that it is going to happen. And I think there are a lot of advantages to it as well. A lot of people come back to the country. A lot of people, I mean, if you look at the amount of remittances coming to India from Kenyans living abroad and working abroad, it is massive. There's billions of dollars of money coming every year in Kenya from people who are working abroad, Kenyans who are working abroad. Mm. And that money is coming back into the economy. Sure. They're using that money to build, houses for their parents, in the villages.
Indeed.
So that a lot of that money is coming back to the country. And imagine if that guy has not gone abroad to study and to work there, that money would have not come back to the country. So there's a lot of money that is coming back to the country. Like, for example, I do also a lot of my investments back in India. So a lot of the money is going back, in their home country as well.
Indeed. So as we look at, what month are we in? We're in July, and there's a lot of intake right now happening for lots of the universities in the western side of the world, and maybe also the eastern, but the intake into the next semester. So do we have a lot of people from this part of the world now applying and getting into intake for the semester?
Yeah, so the latest intake now is September intake. The September intake is also usually the biggest intake in the year. Mm. So there's a lot of work going on right now, a lot of applications happening right now. We've seen thousands of applications this year just to create a platform for the September intake. Mm-hmm. The next intake is going to be January and February, and then May, and then August. But the biggest intake in the year is September intake. So this is a time where, but I think anyone who had to apply to September have mostly finished their applications by now. So now we are focusing on their visa processes, etc., because there's a lot of visa work that needs to happen for study abroad, and that's where we also have a lot of expertise.
Also, do you support that as well?
Yeah. So we help students in the entire visa process, even finding them accommodation abroad, in their flight booking, everything. We do the entire process from finding the right university for you, the right course for you, application to the university, all the way to visa, accommodation, travel, everything we do, insurance, everything. We do support the students end to end.
It's great. Manish, thank you so much for being here this morning. There's a lot to be covered, and looking at how this can actually work to make sure that you're getting the perfect match when it comes to education, and further than working abroad. Thanks for being here today. Manish Adana is the CEO and founder of Cradle Kenya, and we've been talking about basically connecting the link towards a broken system and using innovation to do that. Thank you for being in Kenya's biggest conversation this morning in the Situation Room. And we look towards that. So we looked at issues of abductions this morning, and somebody who was in a police station this morning and abducted Macharia Gaitho, who's been apparently released, and there was a mistaken identity issue about that, but unfortunately we are still there. Conversations continue tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. God willing, we'll be here, and thank you for being here this morning. It's 10 a.m.
Newswire, I'm Edwin Lisamira. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, or IPOA, will have the Acting Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and the Nairobi Police Commander Anderson Bungei arrested over the questionable police conduct witnessed during the nationwide protest.